Inside the Birds is back. Welcome, everybody, to Inside the Birds pregame live here at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook in Philadelphia, where Philly loves a winner. I'm Jeff Mosher from Inside the Birds, alongside my Inside the Birds co-host Adam Kaplan. Back with us again. He's back. He is Greg Cosell, our tape breakdown master. What's up, Greg?
You miss me, Jeff? You miss me?
Absolutely. No. I have cried every day
I'm sure
since we were here on Tuesday.
Right.
That you were here.
Crocodile tears.
And of course, with us as always is former Eagles wide receiver Jason Avant. What's up, Jay?
What's going on? Ready
You
to
have a
go?
good Christmas?
Yeah, everything went well. Kids are happy, so that's fine.
Oh, that's all it takes. That's what Christmas is about, right? Kids being happy. Merry Christmas to all of our viewers out there. Happy holidays. It is weird that we are right back here because we were here just 5 or 6 days ago on Tuesday, and now we're back. It is Sunday. It's the normal day that we play football around here. We, of course, are at Jack's Bar and Grill as the Eagles look to accomplish a couple of firsts today. They can have their first 3-game win streak of the season, and they can also go above 500 for the first time this year with a win over the measly Giants. The Giants are just 4-10. But somehow the Eagles did find a way to lose to them just 4 weeks ago at MetLife Stadium. Since then, the Giants have lost all 3 games by a combined 78-36. So beating the Eagles was certainly high on their wish list, and then after that, not so much. As we mentioned, short turnaround for the Birds today. They played on Tuesday. They did manage to beat Washington 27-17. So we've got a lot to discuss about this game. This will be the second straight NFC East game for the Eagles, who are closing out their schedule with 4 straight division games. Come on down to Rivers Casino and Sportsbook here. You can enjoy all the food, the drinks, the flat screen TVs, the leather seats. It is football watching heaven. Also, you can share this on whatever platform you're watching it on. If it's YouTube, you can leave us a comment. We will try to get to it. Leave us your prediction. We'll read out the score. Interestingly enough, last week, every score I read out was an Eagles win prediction. Kind of shocking. I imagine it'll be the same way today with our viewers. This is interesting. Let's start with the big news today because this just shows you where we're at with COVID. You know, on Wednesday morning, Nick Sirianni announced to the reporters he tested positive for COVID. And what was it, Friday or Saturday, he announced he's good to go.
Yeah.
So I think you start, Adam, with the revised COVID protocols, because I don't think that this would have happened had they not revised the protocols, because the time frame just wouldn't have been long enough.
Yeah, in fact, with this Omicron virus, the symptoms are generally very mild. From talking, I know 2 people have had it, and it goes away quickly. And what was interesting is that when he talked about that press conference that he had on Wednesday, he looked disheveled. He didn't look good. The next time he speaks 48 hours later, he looks brand new.
Yeah.
And they were teasing him about that. He's like, wait, you thought I looked terrible? They're like, hey, coach, you didn't look very good. So thankfully, he says he's fine. He obviously tested negative, and he's going to be on the sidelines. And yeah, it became a story because, as you know, Jeff, people were trying to figure out, okay, if you're not coaching, who's filling in, who's calling the plays, what's the protocol in terms of who's doing what, and it threw people for a loop, and they had him to clarify, wait, is it Kevin Patullo or Jamal Singleton's going to run the team? So now we know it would be Patullo who would be the acting coach, despite Singleton being the assistant head coach.
Guys, it was kind of an interesting structure where Nick said that if he couldn't coach, Kevin Patullo, who is the pass game specialist, would have kind of taken on that head coach, kind of preside over the team responsibilities, coin toss, reviewing a play, things that head coaches typically do. However, the play calling on offense would have gone to Shane Steichen. And I thought that was announced early in the week. And I thought the most interesting thing about that, and another example that in the NFL, your title is simply just a title and not really meaning of anything, is that they have a running backs coach named Jamal Singleton who has the title of assistant head coach. And we saw last year when Doug Peterson tested positive and was out for a few days in OTAs that Deuce Staley was the guy who was going to take over. He was the assistant head coach. This time, they said, no, the pass game specialist is going to be the head coach. And a guy like Jamal Singleton, and even Jeff Stoutland, who has a lot of respect and an extra title on his resume here with the Eagles, he wasn't even someone who was under consideration. So I think what we found out is really how important Kevin Patullo, who is largely behind the scenes, is to Nick Sirianni here, because that would have been his guy. Did that strike you as odd that it wasn't the assistant head coach?
No, because this is the way the NFL works. It's just
title,
like any
it's just
other.
titles.
Sometimes you have to give a title in order to get a guy to come to your program. So and it's an increase in pay, those types of things.
Yep.
It's not necessarily what the job requires as much as it is about the money sometimes. And I think those titles come with money.
Yeah.
Because Singleton had accepted a job at the University of Kentucky. Verbally, he may have actually signed the contract, but in college football, these guys get out of contract. So anyway, next thing I know, I was told a bunch of guys interviewed for the run backs job, and one of them was Singleton, and they hired him. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting how that happened. Temple's new head coach, Stan Drayton, I'm told, interviewed for the Bears running backs job.
Right.
Who was at University of Texas. Now he's the head coach at Temple. So his contracts are just as good as the paper they're on, but here they are. Now they've got to figure it out, so all is well, but we weren't sure about that.
Yeah, no, very interesting
well,
stuff.
What I found fascinating was when Sirianni was announced that he was okay and could be on the sideline, the way social media was thrilled, whereas 6 weeks ago, this guy was an idiot.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah.
7 weeks ago, he was an idiot, right?
Yeah.
And now everybody's thrilled that he's back coaching.
Yeah, that's how it changes really fast.
It was only 4 weeks ago they lost to the Giants.
Well,
so
there you go.
technically,
So,
4 weeks ago he was an idiot.
Yeah.
And by the way, if they lose today,
oh boy.
I guess he has studied really hard in the last 4 weeks to learn some football.
I guess so. He must have figured a few things out.
Really hard to learn some football in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, guys started playing better. Opponents got easier.
Last thing on Patullo, Adam. I remember back when Nick Sirianni was hired, you had a note that he and Patullo, I believe, traveled to Philadelphia together?
Yeah, they're like very close. We had reported when we were starting to hear who was going to be on the staff. Someone who worked for Sirianni, I worked with Sirianni with the Colts, said his first hire, you can mark this down, will be Kevin Patullo. That's going to be his right-hand man, his chief of staff. Now, he doesn't have that title, but based on what Sirianni revealed to the media this week, he clearly was going to run the team. So he's very important, and he was with the Jets, and he knows this offense in and out. But as you said, Steichen would call the plays as the coordinator, though Patullo would handle those day-to-day responsibilities. So listen, every team has this doomsday thing. If something happens to their head coach with testing positive, now we know this is what would happen.
Right. Well, interesting enough, he's the pass game specialist on a team that runs the ball 65% of the time, and yet he would have been the guy that takes over.
Was it like that to start the season?
It was not like that to start the season. I almost feel a little bit of like a Doug Peterson, Press Taylor like pairing here, where these guys are just, that's their thing. But
That's his
fine.
guy. No,
that is his guy.
You're right.
Let's talk about the idea that the Eagles are about to play for the second time this week. Much was made when the game got moved to Tuesday that this was unfair to the Eagles, and oh my God, they got to play 2 games in 5 days and division games. Obviously, this hasn't happened since the game that we talked about years ago that you were involved with, Jay, when they lost to the Vikings and had to come back and play the Cowboys, I think the following Sunday. I know it's a while ago, but just in general, as a player, how difficult or not difficult is it to have to get back on the horse there and play again?
It depends on how brutal the game was before, right? So if you dealt with a bunch of injuries, you would kind of be upset about playing on Sunday. But if you came out of the game pretty healthy, you probably would be happy to get the games, get back and not practice all week, because to us, some of the practices were more grueling than the game. So not practicing that entire week and then going and playing the game is a good thing for a lot of players, especially at the end of the season. So I would like that at this point for the Eagles.
One thing about the Eagles' ability to get rest, they have not been on a flight since November 13th when they traveled to Denver on that Saturday.
Right.
They're the one team that's really not traveled like the last 6 weeks.
Sure.
So that does help them, I think, for recovery, not have to get on a plane, change time zones and all that. I mean, heck, they take a train to Washington next week.
Yeah, they will not have to get on the plane for the rest of the regular season.
Jay, you could speak to this much better, but I would think, too, obviously they probably didn't practice very much or hard this week physically, and at this time of year, that's probably helpful to a player.
It's good. If you play a game on Tuesday, you're going to get you may get Wednesday off, or maybe come in to look at the film. Thursday is going to be a walkthrough. Friday is going to be a walkthrough.
Right.
Saturday, it's going to be walkthroughs pretty much the whole week.
And at this
that's
time
good.
of year, it's probably a good thing for players.
100%.
Did you prefer the late bye? The Eagles had theirs the latest ever in Week 14. You did. You liked
I
the late?
love the late bye. I love the late bye. For us, it was like I never wanted it early. Everyone hates that week 4, where they started at week 4 bye or something like that. Everyone hates that bye.
That's a bad one.
Bye, right? So it just was like usually in the middle of the season or later, you just had that fresh win for the last few games, and I thought it was always better. And you can go somewhere hot when it was cold. So for vacation for that.
Out on the party boats? Is that what you like to do?
Somewhere in the Caribbean, I would be.
Maybe after this is all done, Jay. Yeah. All right, well, let's get to the injuries. There are many of them. They're extensive, and of course, COVID-19 once again is infiltrating this game along with others around the league. We will start with the Eagles. Now, they did get back Landon Dickerson, which is good news.
Yeah. That was quick, too.
That was quick. Yeah, although he did miss that game, but
right.
That was quick. But they are still without reserve left tackle Andre Dillard, who remains on the COVID list. They are out reserve tackle / guard LaRaven Clark, who is on the COVID-19 list, and defensive end Ryan Kerrigan, also on the COVID-19 list. And then yesterday, Sean Bradley, their special teams ace, kind of popped up on that list as well. So that is their 4 guys missing from COVID-19. Now, as far as injuries, it's a pretty healthy team. Now, Jalen Hurts is still dealing with the ankle. We know that, but he's good to go. Miles Sanders, Adam, dealt with a quadriceps. That was kind of a new injury that popped up.
Yeah. Right. So remember now, they pulled him before the 4th quarter. He didn't play. It was all Jordan Howard. Mm-hmm. What I find interesting is that they're not listing Sanders with that ankle injury. We know it's not completely healed, but the quadriceps injury is new. Remember now, he didn't practice this week, but they did not give him an injury designation, so they feel clearly it's minor enough that he doesn't have a designation, like questionable.
Right.
So he's going to play. Jack Stoll, boy, that injury, when he flipped over, did not look good.
Yeah, how about that?
He worked on Friday. Jordan Howard with a sprained knee, he worked, he's fine. They're all going to play. So everyone on the 53-man roster who's not on COVID, they're available today.
I find it fascinating. I don't know what you guys think about this, but we are now, this is technically week 16.
Yep.
Yes.
And Brandon Brooks was out in week 2 with the pec injury. If I'm not mistaken, it was either week 2 or
Partial
week 3.
pectoral tear, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was against the Niners that it happened, and just no updates. No, I mean, there are certain injuries where you know it's going to be the year, whether it's an Achilles or an ACL. I can't remember a pec tear, even if it's a full tear, that has taken more than 10 weeks to even get an update on. Is anyone else kind of puzzled by that?
I don't know what, unless he had a setback, why wouldn't you give an update? It's the only update. Sirianni's been pretty good with injury information.
Yeah.
Updating so people aren't guessing. This one I don't quite understand. But with Dickerson back in the lineup today and seeing Herbig on the other side, they just have not missed a beat. This is the strangest thing.
Yeah.
Is when you keep going down the depth chart at guard, they don't miss a beat. I never would have believed this could happen.
Right.
But they are so committed. You guys know this. They are so committed to the run. No one's been able to slow them down. When you guys watch the tape, have you seen anything? These defenses are slowing them down at all against the run? Greg?
I mean, not really. I've been amazed by the movement of the O-line and the cohesion with which they're playing. I think that's critical for an O-line, and it looks synchronized. And I think that's really been the key. And I think you have to give Stoutland a ton of credit, because when you have Opeta come in literally a day before the game, right? Because didn't Dickerson go on Monday, I believe?
He went in either Monday or Sunday. I think it was Sunday, but still, it was
the
late
point
Sunday.
is there was not going to be a full practice or anything like that before the game.
Right.
And
he was definitely serviceable.
And he played well. In fact, to me, he's more mobile than Dickerson, and the zone run game, I thought he was more effective in the zone run game because he's a more mobile athlete. Dickerson's a stronger player, but I thought Opeta is a better mover. Yeah. And in the zone run game, I thought they looked very good.
Jason Kelsey kind of signaled that weeks ago when he said, don't forget about Sua Opeta. He's been killing it in practice, and he had the opportunity to play. As Greg said, played fairly well, so that was good news. Yet another Eagles backup lineman getting in there, playing well. Let's switch sides to the Giants real quick because their injuries are numerous. Now they're obviously out their Eagles nemesis, Daniel Jones, who will not be running read option against the Eagles today. He is out with a neck injury. He's out for the year. I think we're pretty secure in that Jake Fromm is now starting. Okay, Jake Fromm will make his first NFL start against the Eagles today at the Link. We'll get to more of a scouting report and a breakdown on him from Greg and Jason a little bit later. Wide receivers, the last time the Eagles played the Giants, they were banged up at wide receiver, and they are again. This time, Sterling Shepard on IR, John Ross on the COVID list, and Colin Johnson with a hamstring. So basically we're looking for them at Kadarius Toney, who it sounds like will play today after being out for a couple of weeks, and Evan Ingram, their tight end. And, of course, on the outside, Kenny Galladay and Darius Slayton. Still a pretty good set of pass. I mean, I think a lot of teams would like to have that.
Their depth, we talked about this the last time. They could have, if everyone happened to be available, they could go 6 deep at receiver. Now they're like 3 deep. Colin Johnson, who was their 3rd receiver last week, he got hurt in Friday's practice. He's out. I mean, this is the bad luck that they've had.
That's what happens when you lose.
Everything happens, right?
When you're losing, everybody goes down.
And then Nate Solder, their starting right tackle, just went on the COVID list yesterday.
Big loss for them. Well, a loss for them, yes.
But he's starting at right tackle.
He's a starting right tackle.
They're down. They're now down 3 starters from week 1 on the offensive line.
So now you expect Matt Peart? How do you pronounce it? Matt Peart. Okay.
To start at right tackle.
UConn kid, right?
Yep.
To start at right tackle for them. He has started for them before, right, at left tackle. Also out on defense, Danny Shelton, which is one of their bigger run stoppers. He is out on the COVID list, along with Adoree Jackson, a starting cornerback. Darnay Holmes is out with a chest injury. Pretty good nickel cornerback for them. And Keon Crossan also out.
Is
on
Aaron
the COVID
Robinson
list.
back?
Aaron Robinson.
He was activated.
He's back
Yes,
today.
he was activated.
Aaron Robinson, their
He
rookie,
started
is back.
2 weeks ago on the outside with Bradbury.
And
Right.
Jaron Williams
did last
Darren
week.
Williams did last week,
Yeah,
started.
yeah. So it'll be I would imagine that both of those guys will get on the field. Jaron
But
Williams
Robinson,
and Aaron
2 weeks ago,
Robinson.
played literally every snap on the outside.
Oh, okay.
So with Danny Shelton, though, that's big because he's on base.
Yeah.
Whenever they play base, he's just in there for the run. That's good for the Eagles' running game. That's for sure.
Right. Now the Eagles without Sean Bradley elevated, I believe, Jared Maiden, their safety, off the practice squad, that's happened to him a couple times this year. He usually plays on special teams for them. We mentioned Landon Dickerson will be back. Oh, Cameron Malvo, the practice squad defensive end, gets activated to take Ryan Kerrigan's spot. And I think the bigger story on that is we started to see more snaps from Teron Jackson last week anyway, so I imagine we will see a heightened role for rookie defensive end Teron Jackson again today against the Giants. So a reminder, please, right now, take a second to share the show if you can. Hit the like button if you can. Do whatever you can to promote Inside the Birds pregame live. We'd really appreciate it. And you can start leaving us comments for those watching on YouTube and leaving us your score predictions. Last week we got to all the questions, so I will try to get to everybody's question today, and of course I will read out your score predictions. Now the holidays are over, but you may have found yourself with some holiday money and you're looking to spend. There's no better place to do it than on Deal Dash, and you don't even have to spend a lot because it's the world's largest online shopping platform, and it's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest running penny auction website and app around, and if you think it's too good to be true, we'd have to agree with you. We've seen a car sell for $900, a brand new TV for less than $2. All right? Jason Avant, he's offering himself. You can go out and have fun with Jason Avant next weekend. Start bidding pennies right now. Where you want to go bowling? Bowling with Jason Avant. Just a few pennies. We'll have that up on Deal Dash after the show.
Cheap date there, buddy.
Don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for things you want and get on Deal Dash. Go to DealDash.com or download the Deal Dash app. And when you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right, we mentioned this. It was just about 4 weeks ago that the Eagles suffered maybe their worst loss, at least aesthetically, of the season. A 13-7 loss marred by Jalen Hurts' 3 interceptions, Boston Scott's fourth quarter fumble, Jalen Reagor's drops at the end of the game that essentially cost them the game, and the touchdown that the Giants scored, which was kind of like I guess there was not enough evidence to overturn it, but it was caught by Abington's finest, Chris Myrick.
Oh, Myrick, yeah, good call by you. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
From CHS Panther Pride.
I didn't have Chris Myrick touchdown against the Eagles on my 2021 bingo card, but here we are.
On your fantasy team that week?
No,
The
I
prop
didn't.
was
Just missed the
50,000
call.
Why
to
not?
one.
Why not? You're slipping, Jeff. You're slipping.
There should have been a great Rivers, prop bet on that. If Chris Myrick had something like 5,000.
And if you could spell his last name, it's not quite the way I expected to be spelled. But anyway.
Is there an A in there? M-Y-A, Rick?
Yes, good job by you.
there we go.
Nice. Myrick.
That's what I'm
Jeff's
supposed to
been
do.
studying.
Tell you.
Jay, division games, they're always different than, like if the Giants played in the NFC North, I feel like the Eagles would have won that game by 2 touchdowns. But it's a division, it's NFC East, 2 division games. When you go back and look at that game, what happened there?
It was a bad game. The Eagles played a really bad game. Jalen Hurts played a bad game.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think the Eagles got out-coached from this standpoint. They didn't make the adjustments of what the Giants were doing on defense on first and second down. And that's what the game came down to. First down, them stacking the box, and the Eagles got into a long second and long, and they chose to pass it. You can't allow that to happen. Either you switch it up on first down where you throw them off balance with a reverse or a screen, or commit to the run game to get into manageable short downs on second down so you can continue to run the ball. And the Eagles got out of their game plan to continue to run the ball, even though they ran the ball for 200 yards last game.
Right.
They just ran it later in the game rather than earlier in the game. So that was the gist of the game.
Do you recall, as Jason said, the stacking of the box and schematic
Well,
things?
everybody is going to do that against the Eagles.
Sure, because the way they're running. Right.
I mean, the Eagles have still run the ball for numbers against teams that do that because that's what they are. They're a running team.
Right.
They're built that way.
Right.
I remember I remember at the end of the first half, right before Hurts threw the interception. Of course, that did come right after Ward dropped a touchdown pass.
Yep.
But he had two. It was basically counter tray runs. They were in the exact same play back to back. I think 16 yards. So he had some yards right there. But I mean, the Eagles more than likely will always gain meaningful yards on the ground.
Right.
The question is, and we can discuss this more. There's a larger issue here. We can talk about today. They're obviously not playing a really good team.
Right.
But then you have to talk about the larger profile. Is this a profile, the way they play on offense, that can ultimately lead to long-term success? Long-term this year would be playoffs and then beyond.
Right. That's a great question, and it kind of segued into what I wanted to ask Adam, is that at this point with all these teams at 7-7 and the Eagles chasing a playoff berth, does this game feel like a must-win, knowing who's on deck for the Eagles and then who other teams are playing this week?
Not to get the 7th spot, to get that last wild card, because Minnesota is 7-7. They host the Rams today. Rams clearly are a better team. And then, good luck to the Vikings. They have to go at Green Bay next week.
Right.
Eagles
They beat Green Bay already.
I know, but that was at home. Green Bay's clearly the better team. Minnesota's just barely hanging on. They're bad at corner. The Eagles are in the driver's seat to get this last spot. I mean, let's be honest with you. It would be hard for them to lose it. They could lose it. The Niners, they just lost. They're 8-7. The Eagles are in a very good spot
They
here.
own the tiebreaker over the Eagles, though.
They don't? Well, yes.
Unless there's a lot of teams with the same record.
And they have the Texans, so that's a guaranteed win. And they got
the Minnesota one to me, and I know Minnesota has a strength of schedule tiebreaker. I just can't imagine Minnesota's going to go 2-1 or 3-0 over their final three. Looking at their schedule, I know they have Chicago week 18. The Eagles' schedule, at least the next 2 weeks. I know sometimes when you're not a great football team, you find ways to lose, but it does set up pretty well for them to take that last spot.
All right. Well, Joe Conte just chimed in with a question, and it's kind of relative to what we're talking about, even though it's a little bit putting the cart before the horse here. Joe says, is it a problem that the Eagles are winning with a system that won't win the Super Bowl, meaning running a lot?
Well, and that's, by the way, that's a very legitimate question.
It is.
It's not a quite. The goal, as Jason knows, because every season is its own season.
Yeah.
So the goal this year is to win these games and make the playoffs.
Right.
So you do what you can to do that.
Right.
They're not right now. Well, Nick Sirianni and staff, maybe Howie Roseman in the front office, they have different mandates as they look ahead. But the coaching staff is interested in winning today and winning next week and winning the week after that.
Right.
They don't care how they do it.
Right.
If they win 6-3 today, that's a win.
Do you think there's something to be, because I agree, I think that next year will be its own identity, its own animal. Who knows what they're going to do to the offense, at receiver, at quarterback, or whatever.
That's why the offseason
is so critical. I mean,
and that's why I'm sure that many fans believe that a decision has been made on Jalen Hurts, that he's the guy going forward, but that decision has not been made.
correct. But I guess what I'm asking is, did we learn something this year at times this team has gotten away from the run to a fault. Not often, but at times, and we've heard it from the fans. Did we learn something about maybe being able to lean on the run through some tough times that maybe you wouldn't have seen in the past? I mean, do you think that, Jeff?
I think that the NFL is cyclical, right? So there's going to be times where these prolific offenses have a run at it. And we've seen it over the last 5-7 years of prolific offenses having a run at it and defenses catching up to them.
Right.
Now defenses are catching up to those offenses, i.e. the Chiefs and these high-powered offenses. They're catching up to them, and now they're getting worse at the run. And we're finding that white-hot space of teams not being able to stop the run. And I think in a few years, teams will get back to it if teams continue to lean on the run like they are now. There's a bunch of teams that are leaning on the run.
Mm-hmm.
The Browns being one of them the other night, just they couldn't do anything else but run
Sure,
the ball.
sure.
So I think this can be a winning formula. I just think that we have to think about it a little bit different. Just because we haven't seen it in a few years, that mean that it can't happen again.
I'll
But
say
can
this.
it be? Oh, go ahead.
I was just to say, if you talk to defensive coaches, they'll tell you they love it when teams come out running because they're like, okay, go ahead and run. We just have to stop you in the red zone.
Right.
I think that's why over time teams will want to passing. Now here with Philly, you have this incredible scheme, and I hate to say this, but it's almost true. It's almost Greg was just talking about it. Suapeta's a fifth guard.
Yeah.
It seems like no matter who they put in there, they get the job done because they're committed to it. So if you move this forward, they're probably this season not going to stop doing it. It works for them. Hurts is clearly the part of the run game. And last week, I know we were saying he only threw the ball 27 times, but remember, he also ran the ball 8 times. Most of those were designed passes.
Yes.
So they're still maybe they would have called over 30 pass plays. It's not like they're asking him to throw the ball 10 times.
Right.
They're still throwing the ball, but they're working off the run game, which they were not doing earlier this season.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I was going to say, and I think the key thing, regardless of what thinks of whether this is a profile that can be sustaining over time, is one of the key things here is that Jalen Hurts normally does not turn it over. See, if your quarterback doesn't turn it over, even if you don't have a prolific passing game, if your defense is playing better, and keep one thing in mind, that's something that also plays into this profile. Your defense has to be good.
Right.
You can't play this way with a bad defense.
Correct.
And the Eagles' defense has clearly been better. Now, we can get into long discussions here about quality of competition. I mean, every year is different in that regard, who
Sure.
you play, who you don't play. You know, but your defense has to be a major component if you want to play as a run-first team.
Right.
It's like the Ravens for the first couple of years with Lamar. You know, I know a coach who'd been in the league 40 years who was a major consultant with the Ravens early those first couple of years with Lamar Jackson. And everybody praised Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. Oh, look at the innovation. And he said, oh, no, we didn't innovate. This was all we could do with Lamar Jackson.
Right.
There was no innovation involved.
They're almost forced into the innovation.
This was all you could do because he wasn't that good a passer.
Right.
So you only had one thing to do. So it was
Right,
presented
right.
as, wow, what innovation. But that was all they could do, or
getting
they
the
couldn't
function.
play offense.
Well, but in fairness, wouldn't you say that there have been some teams in the past, and you want to maybe go back to Vic in Atlanta, where you still tried to take a quarterback whose strength was running over passing and shoehorn him into a West Coast offense and do what you would do with any West Coast quarterback? I mean, I want to credit the Ravens for saying that was a mistake back then.
Well, Vic also came out at a time when thoughts like this didn't exist.
That's my point. Being more aggressive.
And
Yeah.
Vic is a way better passer.
Way better. Way better.
Yeah, way better
even-
passer than Lamar Jackson and Jalen
Very
Hurts.
true.
Yes,
Way better.
not even close.
Yeah. So, but he was just a natural thrower of the football. Vic
Right.
was. Now, to piggyback on both of you guys, right? So I think that ultimately, even though you're dependent upon the run game, you have to be an efficient passing game, right? If you're going to throw the ball 20 times, you got to do what Jalen Hurts did last week and be efficient. At some point, like everyone's saying, you got to throw the ball and be efficient in order to win. And even though running is your main thing, those third downs, those in the red zone, when you have to throw the football, we need them to be accurate.
Right.
And that's the thing that we still have to see
We have to see.
consistently.
Yeah.
Can he be accurate?
Like,
and
who's
that's going to determine wins and losses.
Correct. And who's to say if they weren't playing a better team last week, don't forget they were playing Garrett Gilbert.
Correct.
Who's to say that if they weren't playing a better team, when he has the sack fumble where he misses the wide open Goedert for a touchdown on the design of that play,
Sure.
that was the read,
Right.
and he doesn't throw the ball and then gets sacked and fumbles, that those plays don't matter in a game when you're playing a better team.
Sure.
Yes.
That's right. I mean,
Yeah,
you
he
know
had two
the-
opportunities. He had the corner and he had the Gainwell on the
And
outside.
and he's not ready yet. Perfect example. Okay, this is tape study. Okay, this is, and I know people are going to go, "You're a hater," and all. You know, I don't even think like that. But the point is that The design of the play was to the left to hit Goedert. That was the design, because that's where he looked. And then he had time in the pocket. And then if that's not there, you had Gainwell on the other side. He's not quite ready yet to do the Gainwell part of it.
Okay.
That's advanced quarterbacking.
Right.
And that's okay that he's not ready. He's only started how many games? That's okay. You know, it's not a knock on Jalen Hurts, but he's not ready to come back from the left to the right and hit Gainwell on the delayed in-breaker.
Right, right. We're going to get into Hurts in that game. I just want to finish off the whole running discussion with this. I feel like this has been a year where we've seen it a lot more from a lot more teams going to a run-heavy offense. But if you were to ask me, and now maybe you guys feel differently, at the end of the year, who are going to be the two teams playing for the Lombardi? It's looking like Kansas City and Green Bay are probably your two best bets. And those are passing teams. I mean, those are with elite quarterbacks. I mean, they run the ball. I'm not trying to say they ignore it.
Green Bay runs
at
the
the
ball.
end of the day, Green Bay runs the ball.
Green Bay
at
runs
the end of the day, though, when they need
and
plays,
the Chiefs are running it more too.
They are, but when they need plays, they're Patrick Mahomes and there's Aaron Rodgers and there's Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
Well, the
That's
point
what we
is,
talk
go
about.
ahead, Jay.
So let's take it back though. So let's take it back to the teams that absolutely threw the ball only. You look at all of the great Aaron Rodgers teams that they were dependent on him throwing the ball, how many Super Bowls they get out of it? They got one.
Right.
Drew Brees and all of his splendor and all the times he was able to throw the ball, how many Super Bowls they get out of it? One. Right? So when you begin to just unpack it, it's the teams that can run the ball. It don't have to be their main thing, but they're good enough in order to throw a team off balance so they can pass it more. Right? You can't just be a one-trick pony and either run it all the time or throw it all the time.
That's a great
It has
point.
to be a balance.
Great point.
One thing I learned, and I was very fortunate in my career to get to know Bill Walsh and spend meaningful time with him, and one of the things he told me I'll never forget, he says to be a great offense, the run game and the pass game in any given week must be able to operate independently of one another.
So, like,
So in other
one
words-
picks up the other if the other is struggling.
So in other words, if
Yeah.
you're a running football team, people say, well, they have to run to throw. You know, it's the play action pass game.
Right.
Well, that's not going to happen every week.
Right.
So some weeks you have to throw it as the main thing,
Yes.
in a drop back passing game.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the kids these days would call that Belichickian instead of Bill Walshian. The ability to adjust week to week.
Whatever you need to do.
Right, we had to
Yeah.
do it. Like we saw it last night. The Buda Baker and the Cardinals last night. They just refused to let Taylor get loose.
After that first run, they refused to let him beat him.
So they had to do something else, and they ended up adapting and winning the game. But they had to. The team forced them to do something else, and that's what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as we shift it back to the Eagles and what they've done in the run, I mean, I think the most impressive thing that we mentioned last week is to be able to keep up their dominant run game despite being down to their 5th and 6th offensive guards. I mean, that's really incredible if you think about no Isaac Seumalo, no Brandon Brooks, which we talked about, no Landon Dickerson, no Jack Driscoll. It's your top 4 interior offensive linemen there. You stick Sua Opeta and Nate Herbig in there, and you get 41 runs, 238 yards, and a season-high 7.4 yards per carry. It was their 7th straight game of at least 175 yards.
Tied a record, didn't it?
Tied a record from that, I guess,
80.
a decent team, the 85 Bears.
85 Bears.
And by the way,
They had
if
a
they
pretty
do
good
it-
back, didn't they?
They're okay.
Yeah,
He was on his downside. He wasn't that good.
I was just kidding.
I'm kidding.
You should have got that goal line carry, not the fridge in '85.
That was wrong.
If they do it again today, they'll tie another somewhat decent team with 8 straight games. That would be the 72 Dolphins, who merely went undefeated, right? Correct? So that's pretty good. You get 85 Bears, 72
14-game
Dolphins.
season, yes.
Is that you're taking their credit? That's actually harder then, right?
taking
It's
the
a little
glory.
more consolidated time there. No, it's so that's some pretty elite company. Greg, you talked a little bit before about just scheme and the mobility of the interior linemen, including Sua Opeta.
That's what stood out to me this week, because they ran a lot of zone.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because Jalen Hurts did not have a lot of designed runs.
He did not.
So they were more of a and actually I thought they blended the under center game with the shotgun zone read game a little bit more than maybe they had in the past. So in your mind, and we know Washington was beat up, especially in the secondary, linebacker level. But what stood out in your mind on how they were able to run the ball with success?
I mean, to me, like I said, I thought they ran a little more zone. I thought that the O-line, they were a joy to watch. This game, they were really fun to watch.
How so?
Just because I thought the synchronicity with which they executed the different blocking schemes was really impressive. And to me, that's coaching, because you're dealing with Herbig, who's not a full-time starter.
Right.
You're dealing with Opeta, who found out the day before he was going to be the starter. And you can, no matter what his traits are, no matter what Jason Kelce says, he might love the player, but the fact is he found out the day before he was going to start.
The guy's an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, the guy's an undrafted.
And so was Herbig.
So was Herbig. Yeah. So I just, because there's a lot of people who believe that the run game in terms of blocking is much harder than pass protection, because there's a cohesion, not that there isn't a pass pro, but that it's just hard to run the ball in the NFL. And I just thought that the way they did it, with and that's the word I kept coming back to. I mean, we joke a lot about, it looks like synchronized swimming. It looks like dancing bears moving in unison. Yeah. That's what it looks like. And I thought they did a really, really good job, because those combo blocks in his own run game, there's a timing involved in that it just doesn't happen. You know this. That just doesn't happen.
That was the point I was about to make. Is that's what you saw. You saw impeccable timing from them. It's not always about the block. You making your block is when you make your block.
Great point.
Right?
Yeah.
So there was a time, I just go back to one of the quarterback sneaks. He got stood up pretty good there at the line of scrimmage, but you see Mailata come in late in the combo to give that extra push on the Opeta in order to drive the man out, touchdown, different things like that. The timing of blocks, they're doing a really great job at it. And it's a lot of movement, because you do have a lot of mobile guys. And so I think that I know Stoutland's run game is very, very sophisticated. And I know all the receivers hate his run game, because he's always, including them in the run game. With different parts, you got to go over here in motion, you got to help this guy out. So I know the receivers hate it.
Well, long runs, this often happen because of receivers' blocks.
But all I'm saying is it's very intricate.
Yeah.
Most of the time in the NFL, the receivers, they just, when it's a run game, they can take the play off a little bit.
Right.
Not in Stoutland's run game.
So, Jason, you were with you were with Kelce for a couple years, right?
Yeah.
And now he's 34 years old.
Yeah.
When you watch him, what do you say?
Kelce he has strengths, right? And his strength is his mobility in his brain. He's not going to overpower people.
No.
But he can outposition you, because he is so quick. He can get to the edges, and he's always putting people in the right decision. I love Kelce because I know Jalen Hurts at this stage is not taking control of the offense and being able to get the offense, the blocking scheme in order. So I know that Jason is the one that's looking up, seeing safeties from a center position, calling out the mic, doing all of the work sometimes that the quarterback does. I know that that's Jason Kelce and getting us in the right position. So he's a heady player, very quick position, and only if you isolate him where you have 5 down, that's the only time you'll see him struggle. That's the only time.
Right. How many times did you hit rewind on the tape on that play where he just jumps out and runs up the left side as the lead blocker?
He's done that a few times this year, though.
He's done that.
It just sticks out that he ran past Miles Sanders.
That's his game.
Yeah, he was like, dude, right, Miles, make somebody else.
Greg, for someone who's watched this tape since he was a rookie, you've probably seen him, other than his coaches, more than anyone. What has stood out to you?
About Kelce?
Yeah, this year and over his career. Is he even better than he was before?
I mean, I think what we're talking about, I think that over the years, even when Andy Reid was here early, is just the way they use his mobility, because that's what he is. Jay makes a great point. He is not, if you line up, let's say with a big zero technique D tackle right in his face, and he's forced to, to hand fight him, that's not his game.
Right.
So you're obviously not going to build your run game around that kind of thing.
Sure.
So and I think that the point that Jay made, he knows better than I, having been there, is how smart he is and how aware he is. Because in this case, you're right, he's making a lot of these calls.
Yeah, he's making all of those calls.
So, I mean, that's, that is, don't forget, you call a run play, in the huddle, or, if you go no huddles, you call a run play, but then you have to see what the defensive front is. The front dictates how certain things get blocked. So in other words, you can say, let's say it's outside zone, okay? Base run, everybody has in their playbook. But the front tells you exactly how that gets blocked. So somebody has to communicate that.
Right.
When you get down in your stance. That doesn't just happen like that.
Well, I think we've talked about this a few times. If Jason Kelce wants to come back next year, I think they have to figure out a way to make it work so that he's back next year, because his play has not slipped. I mean, he's, as you mentioned, if he's not the same guy, he's just as good as the guy who's
he's
making
having fun too. You could tell that.
He's healthy.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to say, he always makes a decision at the end of the year.
Right.
And this year, he doesn't have the hyperextended elbow like he had last year. Knock on wood, he continues to stay healthy. And at this point at 34 years old, where he's playing at, quite frankly, at an elite level, and he did make the Pro Bowl, and it's legit, by the way. This is one that he got in reputation.
This is legit.
Yeah, this is legit.
Yeah.
And remember now, they've got Dixon or Seumalo who can play center, so they know that they have their future there whenever he wants to stop playing. When your line plays at this level, why would you want to walk away from him, right?
Can't imagine why.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I always go back to this. The way that they're playing this year, this is an O-lineman's dream.
Yep.
Very rarely in the National Football League will a team just dump the pass game and say, hey, our number one priority is running the football.
In season with the same quarterback.
Exactly.
Right.
And so this is an offensive lineman's dream. Every one of them says, man, we have to run the football. The entire game, they're going up to the offense coordinator. But this year, they actually did it.
Right.
So I don't see him leaving that.
Absolutely.
And you know someone like Dickerson loves this.
Oh, God,
Because that's his game.
Yeah.
I mean, he needs a lot of work in pass pro, but as a run blocker, he'll maul people.
Absolutely.
I mean, when they do double teams on the left side of the O-line with Dickerson and Mailata, that's a tough deal.
5 yards.
That's why Adam's heard me say, I kind of hope that whatever they do at center post Jason Kelce, I'd like to see Dickerson stay at left guard, because when you can throw, as I say, 700 pounds of man at a 5-tech or a DN, wherever you're blocking, that's pretty good right there. I mean, I'm not saying Dickerson wouldn't be a good center, but I just like all that mountain of man on the left side. It gives you a good advantage, I think.
Probably your best option at center, though, because Isaac is a natural guard to me, not necessarily a center.
So you don't think Isaac pivots and moves with more athleticism than Dickerson?
Playing a position for longer always will trump your athleticism, right? So if you played that position your entire time or most of your years in college, that's a lot of information that you're learning rather than getting thrown into it as a player in the NFL.
And Dickerson was a center at Alabama his last year, obviously.
Yeah. How's Creed Humphrey? Apparently he's had the greatest year for a rookie center in a while, huh?
You know, I haven't studied him in detail, but, you know, that's...
The PFF grades are good
curious.
for him. Second rounder.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, lost in the running and the offensive line play. Obviously, Jalen Hurts last week, not only does he bring the team back from down 10-0 early, but he gets his first win over an NFC East team. So that was a
wow, I didn't even realize
he kind of had to get that weight off his back, and he's done it. Okay. Some have said it was his breakout performance or crowning achievement. I know that all of us have watched it and talked to people or watched the tape, and we've seen some really good things and also some things that we already mentioned have to get better. Adam, I know throughout the week when we did our Inside the Birds podcast and our tape review one, there were some people we both spoke to who said that as good was, that there are things that he consistently will still do not well that probably frustrate coaches as far as seeing things.
Yeah, I think Greg nailed it. It's when the guy's wide open, the guy's got to get the football because it's within the design of the play.
Right.
And, I mean, literally, you and I talked to people, and the first things we got back was, why was that throw not made?
Right.
Now, I know a couple of the guys I spoke to play in the league. They're in advanced scouting for teams that the Eagles are playing this year, and they know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
One guy played on offense. They said he definitely played well because his accuracy was very good, and this is something that had been an issue with Hurts' his accuracy. You're liking that it's up there, but you just don't accept that, oh, it's okay, he had a great game statistically, and it's okay that he missed a couple throws. No, it's not.
Right.
Because as Greg pointed out, when the competition gets better, you're going to need those throws. You're going to need to make those throws, but we're not purposely trying to hate on them. We're just pointing out what people who work in the National Football League think. Who watch this tape every week.
That game also was a close game in the third quarter. So when you ever have close games, you want to go back and figure out, well, could I have put that game away earlier? Were there plays to be made that were not made? You two, I want to ask specifically about a certain play because we've gotten kind of mixed reaction about it. If you remember, there was a pass completed to Dallas Goedert across the middle. I believe the Washington had shown pressure. A little bit late in the play, you see it was at Jalen Reagor wide open down the field waving his hand. Now, there were some people that said that's a play that Jalen's got to see and make. I know Dan Orlovsky went on Twitter and showed the whole breakdown and said that that Jalen went to the right spot. He completed the pass to Goedert, even though it looked like a more difficult pass. So if you remember the play I'm speaking of, I hope.
I remember. Do you remember the play?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank, actually.
All right, I remember the play. It was Goedert 19 yards on 3rd and 6.
Yes.
I noted it.
Oh, the one over on that he caught toward the right side,
Yes,
moving
on
left
the
to
second
right.
possession,
Yes.
okay?
Okay.
So it came, and just what you said, it came out of 11, 3-by-1 bunch versus Washington, nickel disguise, latent movement to cover 2.
Right.
Okay. It was a high-low levels concept.
Okay.
I guarantee that was the play call. So the levels concept was Smith ran the shallow crosser and Goedert ran the intermediate crosser.
Right.
I guarantee that was the way it was coached and that was the way it was read.
So he made the right decision to go to Goedert.
That would be my sense. I don't
Okay.
think Rager, I mean, obviously, if the defense falls down and the guy's running wide open, that's one thing. But I don't believe, and you tell me if you see it differently, but I don't believe that Rager was technically part of that.
You're talking about the post route.
Rager ran the post.
Yeah.
Ran the post.
And
All right,
it-
yes.
and
So that's a concept where it's a post, there's an over, there's an under.
Right.
Right. So the only way the post is an alert. It's not necessarily
Very.
part of the progression.
Correct.
It's a post alert.
Okay.
Meaning if the safety messes up, you're reading him. The alert comes first though.
Right.
Here's the thing: the alert always comes first because if the safety comes down. And he comes out of the sky, the alert should be there for you. But after the alert is taken away, you read the play top to bottom.
Right. Then it becomes a levels.
Then comes a level play.
Yeah.
But you're looking for the post alert initially.
Okay.
Right. So in that situation, the post alert, if the safety comes out, you're supposed to throw it.
But I don't think it should, to me, again, this is where I don't think Hurts was wrong. I don't think it showed immediately, okay? Now,
there
maybe,
was like a flat defender
right,
initially
now
taking
maybe
taking
a
her
more
out.
veteran
Right.
quarterback, maybe when he gets more experience, he might wait on that.
Right.
But the last thing you want with a quarterback is to wait in the pocket for deep balls.
Yeah.
And if he did not feel that safety was vacating center field, then you can't sit there.
It's immediate.
Right.
Remember, the post alert is immediate.
It's immediate.
It means that by the time he gets to his 5-step or 7-step, it's already declared where you have to make your decision.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you don't think it's declared, and I would defend Hurts on this one 100%.
Sure.
Then
In watching it slow, I would agree with you.
Then
I
you go
would've
to the
been-
levels concept
Right.
because that's really the design of the play.
Right.
It's a levels concept against a Washington defense, by the way, that is high percentage zone. So that's why the play was called. Washington plays very little man coverage.
Sure.
And so
They're
you're
playing more
calling.
zone than anyone right now. I
Yeah,
think.
they do. Since week 10 when they beat Brady and the Bucs,
Sure.
they played more zone than any team in the league,
Sure.
and the least amount of cover one.
Right.
So
That was my thought, by the
So
way,
the-
that maybe someone who played the game more veteran would have just known to kind of wait, hang on that extra second to see if
so
that.
Jay's right. That's
but yeah.
it's an alert, but if you
Yeah.
don't see it now, then you're going to the levels concept.
There are certain guys that can manipulate those things.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Rodgers can manipulate
Yes.
that. Where
Jalen's not there yet.
where he's not
No,
there yet.
of
Where he's eyeing it the entire time.
Right.
Where he's like I can feel this guy itching for it. I'm
Right.
gonna eye it a little
Right,
bit longer
right.
in my drop back and try to get it open.
Right.
You know, but he's not there. He's not playing.
You mentioned the top to bottom concept. That is something that Adam and I sort of consistently hear about talking to people, is that if there's one knock, and we're going to take this play out of it because he theoretically made the right decision, he completed the pass, but that he tends to look low to high as opposed to high to low.
Well,
when
do you know
he's-
that for a fact from talking to people?
That's
He's a
the
very good
feedback
source,
that
yeah.
we got.
Okay, okay.
Couple
We had
guys,
heard
yeah.
that earlier this
Okay.
season,
Yeah,
too.
that he would rather almost, and that kind of couples with sometimes he's predetermined where he's going to go with the ball, so that, and it's the safer.
But I think young quarterbacks do that.
They do.
See, you know that. I think young
That's how they
quarterbacks.
grow.
I think young I would say, and I even made this note. I think Jalen is at the point in his career where he's running the play out of the huddle. Whatever the play call is, he's running it. And if it's not there the way he sees it, he'll run.
Right.
Okay. And that. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying that's where he is in his development
Sure.
right now.
Sure.
He's not necessarily going through that whole process yet.
Right.
Can I say this?
Yeah,
with this?
sure.
Because me personally watching the game, he made some mistakes. But to me, it was his best football game. The reason it was his best football game, because when you really consider his numbers, he was 20 for 26.
Right.
He had three
drops.
very
Yep.
easy drops.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Right? Two
Yep.
by Goedert,
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get into
can
those.
toss it to him and catch it.
Right.
And he had one by Gainwell on a quick screen.
Right.
Yep.
Was it Gainwell?
Ward dropped one right before.
Was it red zone?
Right before the
was a
Devontae Smith.
touchdown, wasn't it?
Yeah. Greg Ward dropped one.
Yeah, I know he would
left
score
corner
later,
of the
but
end zone.
yeah.
So that's full. Like when you consider it, like when you consider him, like he's really 24 for 26.
Right.
Now we're talking about passes that he completed or passes
Right.
that he did not make.
Right.
Because there's a few. 2 of his sacks were all Jalen Hurts.
Correct.
2 out the third one, Opeta just got beasted. He couldn't do much about it. But 2 out of the 3 sacks were all Jalen Hurts, where he had an outlet and he had a place to go with the ball. He just didn't see it. And probably his worst play of the day for me, one of his worst plays of the day was the one that Goedert took off the helmet of the defender. That was a bad play by him. He'd stared at him the entire time.
Right.
The safety was over there. He was just a bad athlete.
The wheel route?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that ball was underthrown, too.
It was underthrown, and he looked
shoulder.
the entire time.
Well, that's a perfect example of what I'm saying. It was a post wheel, and the play was going to Goedert. He was going to throw that to Goedert no matter what.
Right.
The safety was just a bad athlete.
And then he underthrew it.
Yeah.
And by the way, that is an area he needs work.
Yeah.
I said it's the deep ball. He does not have a naturally strong arm, and his throwing mechanics further limit his ability to get the ball out with distance. His deep balls show a tendency to lose energy on the back end. We've seen that all year.
Yes.
He needs work on his deep ball.
Sure. Absolutely.
But from a completion and placement standpoint, for most of the day, even on targets that he missed, he missed Devontae Smith in the end zone where he was double covered. He put it in a place where Devontae Smith got one hand on it. If he were able to get his other hand up, could have been a touchdown.
Right.
Greg Ward in the end zone with one hand on it had an opportunity. There was multiple plays in there where it was great ball placement. He didn't struggle with that for majority of the day.
Even the touchdown to Ward was put in a spot where I know it took a great play by Ward, but that was only Ward who could make that play.
And I think you would agree with this. I thought that the Rager 34-yard screen on 3rd and 6 on the fourth quarter TD drive, I thought he audible to that. Didn't you think that, too?
That wasn't audible to that.
That was an audible because he saw the double mug front, he saw the pressure front, and he audible to the quick screen because he knew they didn't have enough defenders on the outside.
That was a touchdown. I'm going to tell everybody why that was a
Goedert
touchdown.
plays for 50 yards
Listen,
and Goedert drops it.
That was a touchdown. Whenever you have a big guy in space, Lane Johnson,
Yeah.
on a small guy, and you're down the field, and the guy's right behind you, you automatically throw. That means that you go and try to cut the guy's legs out. Even if you miss, it gives the ball carrier a two-way go. And therefore he can cut up and go across the field. That was a touchdown. All Lane Johnson had to do was just throw. I was yelling at the screen like, dang it.
But the point is that was an audible. It was a good audible. He saw it. He read the front, and he knew that they were weak in coverage. They didn't have numbers in coverage. That was a really good play by Hurts.
All right. Well, obviously, big game for Hurts today. Got to atone for the last time out against the Giants, which was probably his worst game. I think undoubtedly his
14
worst
for 31 was bad.
Let me ask you,
bad.
before we move on, I want to get back to that very quickly since you mentioned it. What were the issues in that game that you saw with him from a processing, why did he struggle that game? Yeah, that first Giants game.
First Giants game.
Why did he struggle so badly?
There were some things that were just, I don't understand. Like his interceptions in that game, I only understand one of them. Where Quez got beat to the spot.
He got pushed off.
He got pushed off to the route. I understand that interception. You're expecting the guy to cross his face. He did.
You mean on the inbreaker and the
On the
red
inbreaker.
Yes.
Yeah, on the inbreaker.
I didn't think that was on Hurts.
No, that's
Right, no,
what
that's what I'm saying.
He understood it.
That's the only one I understand.
Yeah.
That's the only one I understand.
Yeah.
The other two I don't understand. Because you stare the guy down the entire time, the guy's already 12 yards off, and then you're rolling to the right and you just throw it to a guy randomly before halftime.
Throw it out of bounds, take the field goal.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So
you felt he might have been pressing a little bit because I remember you saying they were starting to get that running team, all the questions about you're running this, you're running that, and then...
And you guys made the point because of the press conference, something that was said that I believe it was that week where, a guy, he pointed out that he, Peyton Manning and stuff like that. That was indications that he may have been pressing
and that deep ball interception was another, which I think McKinney picked off.
Yeah, McKinney picked that.
That was another one, the deep ball. That ball lost a ton of energy on the back end. He could not get it out there.
Which goes to what you've been saying about the deep ball in general.
He needs
this
work
year.
on his deep ball. And
he stared him down,
too.
Yeah, totally. He brought McKinney right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, that's lower body mechanics.
I was just going to ask you, so it's a mechanic issue.
I mean, I think so, just based on studying. Look, he has a little bit of a funky delivery. I would not call him, you talked about Michael Vick, who's just a beautiful thrower. Hurts is not a natural, easy throw. He doesn't have a fluid delivery.
Right.
That's not going to change. This is the way he throws a football.
Right.
So you're not going to change him from here up. So now he's got
Nick Sirianni has said.
He's got to be pristine from the waist down, and he's got to be repetitive. It's repetitive mechanics, and it's the waist down.
The bomb to Quez Watkins against the Niners, that was a catch and run for 92 yards. That was a beautiful throw. Okay? He squared up, they rolled him out right, hit a clear path, and he squared his legs, and he drove the football with his hips. It's maybe the best pass he's thrown.
But if you remember, was that the Niners game?
Yes, week 2.
If you remember on the first series of that game, they had a beautifully designed play with Devontae Smith. And
post.
He was late, and he underthrew it significantly.
He was also dropping the hands.
Should have been a touchdown.
I remember. He was just so, I don't want to say the word lazy, but just nonchalant on on his drop.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, he was just nonchalant.
Because he cannot get it. He's not Michael Vick who just flick it like this.
Right.
He's got to be set up correctly, posture, stance, feet correct, and roll those shoulders.
And every quarterback coach, and Adam knows this, he's talked to many, and as have I, and I've been to quarterback clinics and the whole deal. They will tell you that you rarely can fix the way a guy actually throws it when he starts his delivery. You can change his what they call ball carriage. You know, like some guys hold the ball too low. You want him to hold it a little higher.
Right.
Like when Aaron Rodgers came in the league with Jeff Tedford, well-known college coach. Tedford had
I asked Mike McCarthy
quarterbacks hold the ball here. You can't do anything athletically with your hands up here.
Right.
So
it
was immediately lowered. You can change a guy's ball carriage, but you can't change the way a guy, once he starts his delivery, you can't really change the way a guy throws it, but you can change the waist down.
Yeah.
Jeff, you had a note for us in the spring. Remind us now on Hurts about it, because he was an over-the-top
Right, because
throw
Nick has said he's not trying to change what Greg has said, that, where you're holding the ball, but they felt he had a little bit of when he wants to throw a
little bit of a wind-up.
A wind-up, correct. I think the name Byron Leftwich got thrown as an extreme example, not what Jalen Hurts does, but you'll see he'll drop the hand sometimes.
That's what John DeFilippo did with Carson Wentz.
Yes.
Carson Wentz tended to have that long, a lot of guys do.
Yep.
You can get away with that in
college.
college.
It's too long, yeah.
Hurts is a little too long.
Right.
Now, you can tighten that up a little bit. You can't change it, but you can tighten it up a little bit.
Absolutely. Obviously, he's been working with Brian Johnson on that, the quarterback's coach, and theoretically they should continue to work on that in the offseason.
And that should be just what you said, a big offseason project.
Big offseason project. All right, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our friends at Sky Motor Cars, including the voice of the Eagles, Mr. Merrill Reese.
Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Sky Motor Cars. If you go stop into their headquarters in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal. We did talk about Dallas Goedert there briefly while we were speaking of Jalen Hurts. Now, Adam, you've been saying that the offense needs to go through Dallas Goedert to be successful.
This will be the 5th week, yes.
Yeah,
and they're starting to do it.
And the last 2 weeks it has. 13 receptions, 240 yards, and 2 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He's also averaging almost 15 and a half yards per catch, which is number one among tight ends. All tight ends in the NFL. 78% of his catches getting first down. That's also number one among tight ends. So he could be, how about that? He could be the first Eagle, if he gets 100 yards today, to have 3 straight 100-yard games since Jason Avant.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding. It's not. I was wondering who was going to interrupt me. By the way, Adam's eyes almost fell out of his head. That's what? Jason Avant?
Sorry. Somebody's been smoking crack this morning.
It is somebody that Jason Avant played with, though. It would be Terrell Owens. So imagine being
the other 81
in that company. That's right, the other 81. I just got 81.
Let me tell you something. Tyler Higbee has the NFL record. It's 4 consecutive in 3 years ago for the Rams. So if Goddard gets
consecutive 100-yard games?
Yes, Tyler Higbee for the Rams 3 years ago.
It started with us. So was it last year?
2 years ago you said, right?
2 years ago?
Was it? I don't know. I know last year he had basically
nothing.
It seemed like he had it all against the Eagles.
It was 18 or 19, but the bottom line is Higbee has the record of 4 consecutive 100-plus yard games for tight ends.
Yeah. Look, there's no question.
That was when he came here, and that was the 2. What did he have? 2 touchdowns or 3 against the Eagles?
He had 3 against the Eagles, I'm pretty sure.
But we're talking 100-yard-plus game for a tight end. He did it. Higbee's got the NFL record.
Right. So
it's hard to do.
There's a couple of things at play here with Goddard. To me, it's not a coincidence because we don't talk about it enough, but he is a good run blocker. And it's no coincidence that ever since Zach Ertz got traded, and then they rethought the offensive concept, that they've been an excellent run blocking team as well as what he's doing in the passing game. I mean, I think he's I don't want to say as big as part of that as the lineman, but it's an important part of what they do. And you've even seen on the screens, he's out there blocking on the screen. So he's kind of becoming their complete number one tight end. Greg, when you watch him and you see all the other tight ends in the league, I mean, is he getting into that range where you start to say, there's Kelsey, there's Waller, there's Kittle? Like, do you look at Goedert as similar?
I've always felt he was that guy.
That he had the talent to be that. Right.
It was waiting to happen.
Uh-huh.
And because he's a big man, I watched his college tape, and obviously smaller school, and he was thought of really highly as Adam knows coming out because he was really athletic. He was a pass catcher who could block. And I think he can reach that level. I really do. I mean, and he's featured in this offense. Now, again, who knows what happens after this year, but for the rest of this season, he'll be featured in this offense as a pass catcher.
Right.
And he has 3-level ability. He can run vertically, he works the intermediate areas, as we've seen, and he certainly can run, do the short game, and he's very effective in the screen game because he has run after catch.
Sure.
So, I mean, I really think Goedert, from a talent standpoint, if he can just develop, as Jay said, just maybe a little more consistency overall, I think he can be definitely a top 3-4 tight end.
When you say consistency, what do you mean by that?
Catching the ball.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Jay, there's a comment here before you get to Cyril, because I think it's going to play hand to hand. There's a comment from David Baglivo who says, Jason Avant, can you show Rager how to run a route and catch the ball? Right? And it's funny, no one's saying that about Dallas Goedert, who literally cost the team, I don't know how many yards. I mean, on 2 screens.
It's probably at least 50 yards. He had at least 50. No. He had, I would say, 30, 25, at least.
Okay.
He could have had more, but those 2 drops were at least 50 yards worth for drops.
Were they concentration drops, Jay?
Yeah, that's just that's his personality. I've always said this about Dallas Goedert. There's times where he just doesn't care, to me. Like, not in a bad way, because I think he's so talented that he just takes it for granted.
Yeah.
That's the better verbiage. Right? He's so talented that a player like him can take it for granted. I don't think that he's at that top echelon tight end yet. Okay. Does he have the ability? Yes. The top tier are great route runners versus man-to-man. You can't stay in front of Kelsey. You can't stay in front of Kittle. You cannot stay in front of Darren Waller. And man-to-man, they're going to win most of the time. Goedert has not proven in some critical games. I just think back to the last Giants game. He had multiple opportunities in that game to get open in critical situations.
0 catches that game, by the way.
Yeah, 0 catches. He had opportunities versus man-to-man coverage when it's a safety. Freaking Kelsey has to be covered by a corner in critical situations, because they won't dare try it with a linebacker or safety.
And Kittle's just on a different level.
Well, Kittle can just run so fast that it's just not fair.
Right.
So do I think that he's in that next tier tight ends? Yes. Does he have the potential? But he has to pay attention to the details to get there. Route running, the concentration drops.
Right. Yeah, we talk about Jalen Hurts having to atone for his effort against the Giants last time, and I think the same can be said about Dallas Goedert, because he didn't have any catches, and then he's coming off a great game, but 2 big drops against Washington.
Well, the Giants have pretty good secondary players, right? Even though Holmes is out, you still got Logan Ryan, who's usually better cover guy than the tight end.
They're one of the best teams covering tight end, by the way.
Exactly. You got McKinney because he can get in there. You have Love.
Decent, right?
You have Julian Love there.
They play a lot of zone, though. That's what's interesting. They're not a hype. I mean, every team plays some man, and Ryan can match. See, they've got 2 safeties in Ryan and Love with corner experience.
Exactly.
Love was a corner at Notre Dame.
Right.
And Ryan has, he was a corner at Rutgers and has played corner throughout his career.
Sure.
And made the transition to safety
2 years ago.
When he went to Tennessee, I believe.
I think he was still at corner.
Yeah. So, but the point is they've got 2 safeties who can play man-to-man.
Yeah. Well, that's Joe Judge from the Belichick tree.
And by the way, McKinney can do that too. He did that at Alabama.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, a big game also for Dallas Goedert. We'll see if he can tie Terrell Owens today with another 100-yard receiving game. We thank you again for tuning in to Inside the Birds pregame live. Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, Greg Cosell, and Jason Avant. Let us hear from our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook.
This is my city. This is a city that knows how to play. A city that's in it for the win. So I go to the place that gets that. Where they know how Philly likes to play. And where I know my seat is always ready. This is my place.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Rivers Sportsbook and Casino. Remember, come on down, watch the game. It's football watching heaven here. It is time for our weekly segment with former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Mikell, a known Giants hater, by the way. And we talked about the Giants and facing a rookie or a quarterback making his first start today, as the Giants are doing. So here's Q's views.
What's this?
So you're saying people really jumped in?
Okay, we're here with former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Mikell for this edition of Q's Views. Q, I want to start off first by wishing you Merry Christmas. Hope you had a great one. And also asking you about your favorite team, the New York Giants. Now, really more so about playing a team twice in such a consolidated time frame like they'll do with the Giants and then Washington. What is that like tactically as far as how you prepare to do what you want to do, but not really be repetitive from what you already did?
Well, I think from a player standpoint, at least for me when I played it, which was really nice when you had these kind of short turnovers, is like the game plan doesn't really change much. And it really just comes down to just playing football. Like it's the closest thing to college in terms of just lining up and playing ball, in terms of just going out there and seeing if I can out hit, I can out tackle, I can out execute, I can outrun or do whatever. So the game plan is very basic. The game plan, it kind of is what it is. And it really just kind of falls on whether or not the players can just execute, tackle well, and play well. So it's going to be very similar, I think, scheme-wise to the last few games. Just really just kind of depends on the way the players execute.
Sure. When you lose that game, though, I'm sure you want to do some things differently and adjust to whatever it is that made you lose. We saw the Giants bring a lot of corner pressure, edge pressure from the secondary to try to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket. And when they did that, they had success getting him to be inconsistent. So are the Eagles now trying to prepare for that same kind of look from the Giants? And if so, are the Giants then preparing to do something differently in that cat and mouse type of game?
Yeah, I think that really kind of is a question more for the coordinators, and I think the coordinators really, you have to understand their mindset. So as a defensive coordinator, type of guy that will say, "Listen, we had success with this the first game. Let's do it again until they can figure it out." Or, "Hey, we think they're going to figure it out. Maybe we can change it and come with a different look." So I suspect all week, every practice, every film session. I think the Eagles offense, quarterback coach will definitely be making Jalen aware of what happened in the first game, and they should be ready to counter it in however way they feel possible. And you hope if you're ready to play, you have some things that are kind of ready to offset those corner blitzes. And really, to be honest with you, I think that was the first game in a long time where Jalen had really felt, where I felt as a fan, that Jalen really took a step back. And so I'm definitely going to be looking at this game and trying to see how they adjust and if he's ready to kind of overtake what happened last week or 2 weeks ago.
Sure. I think we can all agree the Eagles are going to try to establish a ground game. It's worked for them. They have now become the first team since the 1985 Bears to go over 175 yards rushing in 7 straight games. If you were the Eagles offensive coordinator, or if you were just an offensive player for the Eagles, you would have to think somebody's going to try something different soon to stop them, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, and I think teams they've been trying to stop them in the last few weeks. I just think the Eagles are that good at running the ball. They're that good with the offensive line play. They're that good at changing up the schemes and changing up the running, the running backs, and just hitting you with so many different ways. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's really cool because, I mean, if you look at the Kansas City Chiefs offense, right, and they can attack you in so many different ways through the air. It's almost the same thing, but with the running game with the Eagles. So I think it's really cool, and I think I hope it's something that kind of catches on in the league, because you get tired of seeing everybody just throw the ball. I get excited seeing some different run schemes and different block schemes and different ways that teams can, this Eagles teams can attack you in the run game. And, I just like that physical, pounded out type of football. And I think this area, I think this, this community, the Eagles fans, like, it's just something that we've been wanting for so long. And so it's just so nice to see it. And I hope it continues.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think if it continues again and they get 8 straight of 175 or more, you'd have to go back to the 72 Dolphins. I think you and I were both in diapers, or perhaps not even conceived yet when that happened. So
yeah, I wasn't conceived yet.
Yeah,
but I know that was the undefeated team, right? Was that
it was.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah, that'd be great company then, right?
Pretty elite company right there. Let's flip sides here and talk about the Eagles defense. I want you to put your Jim Johnson cap on, right? You're devising a game plan for a quarterback in Jake Fromm, most likely, who's, played very little in the NFL, will probably start. What are you doing? Are you trying to fool him with lots of pressure? Are you trying to mix it up? How do you attack Jake Fromm? And then you tell me how you think Jonathan Gannon will attack Jake Fromm.
Yeah, if it's me, I'm coming after him. First play, second play, I'm putting my corners in press, making them play tight coverage, because it's very tough to have accuracy if you have pressure. It's very tough to have accuracy if you haven't played a whole lot. So I'm having tight coverage across the board, press coverage. I'm changing up my looks. I'm going from 5-man fronts to 4-man fronts to odd fronts with 3-man fronts. I'm pulling out everything I can to confuse and harass this quarterback the entire game. And my hope in doing that, if I'm a coordinator, is, number one, it's going to confuse him. It's going to get him off his spot. It's going to get him out of the game early. It's going to allow us to practice our schemes against a team that not necessarily can hurt us, because you have a young quarterback that hasn't figured it out yet. So there's that learning curve kind of evened out. And then I think it's going to put other teams that you're going to be playing, Washington, they're going to have to study the new looks. The Dallas Cowboys are going to have to study these new looks. And so I think that really would serve this defense well if they come out and just attack and change up the coverages and everything. Now, that being said, with Coach Gannon, I know he likes to play it safe. So I don't anticipate a lot of that, especially in the first half. We saw what happened last week when they had Goedert from the Washington football team, didn't really blitz him or come after him to the second half. And then when they did, it was kind of basic, same blitzes. So it's unfortunate. I'm hoping that we come after him early, but I don't expect it from Gannon. Not really.
Q, the Giants don't have very much to play for. They're 4-10. What do you expect from them today? Is this the type of team that you think will just get punched in the mouth early and give up, or have you seen this kind of act play out too many times before and you have a little concern?
Well, it's funny. I think Joe Judge, I think Gettleman, I think that entire organization, they're all playing for their jobs right now. The players are playing for their jobs, and I think everyone kind of knows it. So I expect them to come out ready to fight. I expect them to come out knowing that their job's going to be on the line. Everything's going to be in play. If I'm the Eagles coaches, I'm listening. Every punt, every kickoff, every single fourth down, we've got to be ready for something, because they're pulling out all the stops. And this is a spoiler type of game where they can, we hate them, they hate us. It's a game where they can ruin the Eagles season. So they better be ready to play and not expect them to come out and lay down.
Short turnaround, does that kind of concern you, or do you like the fact that the Eagles get right back on the field?
It's very concerning this late in the season. I know we're coming off a bye, but to play 2 games in such a short time, and against one of them, against 2 rivals, 2 teams that we've traditionally had very, very physical type of games. It's ridiculous that the NFL was allowing this to happen. And if I'm Mr. Lurie, I'm calling Goodell and letting them know how unhappy I am with this, because you're putting your team at a very, very dangerous spot. And so I'm very concerned with that. I hope that we don't have any injuries or anything like that, knock on wood. But this is kind of ridiculous for me.
All right. Well, two straight division games and then 2 more to follow that up to close out the season. All right, Q. Tell me who's going to win this game and what's the score.
Yeah, I got the Eagles win this one. I think they're going to bounce back. They had a good game last week. It's short turnover. A lot of distractions with Christmas and everything, but I think they'll be ready to play. I got the Eagles win in this one by a landslide. I got them winning 34-7.
Ooh, 34-7. Merry Christmas to everybody in Philadelphia. All right, Q, have a great one. Thanks. That's been Q's Views, as we always do here on the Inside the Birds live pregame show. Thanks, Q.
All right, thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone.
All right, great stuff there from former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Mikell predicting a big win for the Eagles today. Didn't he play in a million division games to know better than that? 30. Although there were some blowouts. There have been some blowouts.
It's so funny. I don't know why I just thought of this. It reminded me of when I actually did a draft show with Q years ago after he retired.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay. And, there's downtime when you do a draft show,
Yeah.
And I actually asked him, I said, what did Jim Johnson, the former great D coordinator, what was the thing he got most mad about when you did, because I was just curious.
He could let it loose.
Because all coaches get mad. They have their certain things that that they get really pissed about. And he said, if he called a blitz and you screwed it up, he said, man, you would incur the wrath of Jim Johnson.
He has told that story on the Q&A show several times.
Did he? Okay.
About his rookie year when he forgot to run a specific blitz and got chewed out by Jim Johnson.
I love that guy.
The thing I loved about Jim Johnson, if he dialed it up and it didn't work, he took the blame for it. I remember him blitzing Eli Manning maybe a second year in the link, and they came back. We were up like 21 points, and they came back and won.
2006.
I remember that game.
And lost Javon Curse.
And he blitzed he did zero,
Yes,
like
he
4 or 5 in a row.
Yep.
And Sheldon Brown got beat against Plesko Burris on the left side.
Yep.
He stood up at the podium, and it was my fault. Apologized to Sheldon, like, dude, I made you play 0 4 times in a row. He made him pay.
Yeah. He was the best. Great Jim Johnson.
That game was known because every single day afterward, for Eagles beat reporters like myself, we got fan emails and basically emails at that point saying, how can the Eagles get Plexico Burris? How can the Eagles every time Plexico Burris was on the rumor to be out or trade or whatever? Oh, can the Eagles get Plexico? It was like every offseason.
That's when I would turn over to Ruben Frank. I said, Ruben is your where's Plax?
Yes, he's our resident Plexico Burris tracker. Those were good times. All right, our team of Public Square and Rebel Hill are back. James and Zach are back, bringing behind the controls, bringing Inside the Birds to you in high definition with great graphics, videos, and more. So contact Public Square Media and Rebel Hill Productions to produce your webcast, podcast, live show, or anything else you can dream of. This team can bring it to life. And speaking of blowouts, as I read the comments section here, Rebel Hill Productions is predicting a 31-14 Birds win today. We got Michael H. says Eagles win 27-24. Joe Conti says 24-21 Eagles. Tony Fuller and Christopher Hampton 31-17 Birds.
30 points.
Yeah, David Baglivo, Eagles 24-13.
That's my score.
We got Squanjo who says Eagles 30-10. Carl Stevenson, Eagles 27-14. You guys notice a trend here? A lot of Eagles.
The Eagles are going to blow them out. Huh?
Hey, look, the weather today, mid-50s in December, folks.
And they're playing a quarterback who's never started.
Yeah,
there you go.
We'll get to that in a second.
We'll get to that. And by the way, Bruce Terrell says Jake Fromm will not score. Eagles 35-0 today.
35-0.
That was your score, right?
A lot of people are going to be pounding their
I
chests.
felt bad for my score because the Giants have been keeping people out of the end zone. Well, at least they kept the Cowboys out pretty much.
Yeah.
They didn't have 3 turnovers.
Their
4
defense
turnovers.
has not been bad.
No, so they can't
defense
score
pretty
any
good.
points, but their defense is
Their
actually
pretty
decent.
good. So I felt bad about giving us 24 points. So.
All right, well, we got a segment for that, all right?
Yeah, I didn't get the rest out.
We are in hour 2 of Inside the Birds pregame live. Still plenty of time if you want to get down here and get situated for the 1 o'clock games at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook. Take advantage of the food and drink specials. Watch the games on their gigantic flat screen TVs. And, of course, place a wager on any of the games, including Eagles-Giants. All right, so for the second straight game, guys, the Eagles are facing a quarterback that they've never played against before. Obviously, Garrett Gilbert was only making his second career start last week. This time, Jake Fromm for the Giants will make his first career start. He came in relief last week of Mike Glennon, I believe.
He did.
Yeah, a fifth rounder from Georgia who spent his first year with the Bills, if I'm not mistaken, right? All right, so he will make his first pro start for the Giants today. Just real quick, 6 of 12 for 82 yards against Dallas, no touchdowns, only sacked one. So, Greg, I always like to start with you on this. Before we even get into what you saw against the Cowboys.
That's not that
right.
relevant.
I'd rather hear about your scouting report from his Georgia days.
Well, it's pretty extensive.
They're all one piece of paper.
Yeah, they're all pretty extensive.
One sheet.
One sheet. Yeah.
He obviously was an effective college quarterback playing in a system where they, ran the ball and had great defense.
Yes. You said he was an effective.
He was an effective college quarterback.
Yeah, it almost sounded like you said he wasn't.
He was an effective college quarterback.
He was effective, yes.
My transition for him was that he's a timing and rhythm pocket passer who can effectively work the short to intermediate pass game. I said he must master the subtleties and nuances of pocket play to have a chance to be a solid starting quarterback in the NFL. I said the fact that he is not a higher level arm talent will drop him on draft boards. Can he make all the necessary throws will be a legitimate question because he does not have a big arm. I said he will very much be a function of coaching an offensive system, defining rhythmic throws through route concepts and combinations. In many ways, Fromm is a program quarterback who will need the system to work for him with a running game.
Okay.
So there's a lot more, but those are, the reason he was a fifth-round pick, and by the way, I've been around Jake Fromm at a number of events that been invited to over the years. You can see why, Kirby Smart loved him. You can see why he's a leader-type guy, that kind of guy. He's a great kid, and it just comes out of him. He's that guy.
Right.
But he was a fifth-round pick because the talent level was not viewed as NFL starter.
Mostly arm talent, right?
Yeah, and in fact, I think I ended by saying, my sense is many will see Fromm as a lower-level starter who is best suited for a backup role in the NFL.
Okay.
And I think ultimately, unless he'd be on a team that had a dominant run game as its foundation and a really good defense that kept games together, my sense is he won't be seen as a starting quarterback.
Okay. So he'd be a good Patriots quarterback, but nobody else, basically, is what you're saying.
You got a commitment to it. Yeah.
Is there any reason to believe with what Freddie Kitchens does offensively and what Greg has described, which is kind of like a dink-dunk intermediary guy, that it's a better marriage than, say, what Mike Glennon was doing for them?
Well, Glennon is obviously not the quarterback he was. He does have that strong arm, footwork. Glennon is at the point of his career, he looks like he's done. Near to the end of his career, where Fromm at least is healthy. They will commit, obviously, with Barkley there. They'll try to run the football. But
they haven't been able to do that.
That's
been a problem.
They've tried.
Yeah.
But they've tried, and they're going to have to. Now, Freddie Kitchens is more of a spread guy. And now they're down to 3 receivers. Now, we'll see about Tony. Tony would be one of those receivers. We don't even know if he's going to play today. And Tony's been out a while. Remember, he had a quadriceps injury for several weeks. Plus, now he's on the COVID list, trying to come off of it. It's going to be hard. I agree with all the people are chiming in. And Greg just talked about it. It's hard for the Giants to score points. Because Barkley, their foundation might have been the run game earlier this season, but he's not himself. Their line now is down 3 guys. How are they going to score?
Well, that's a great question.
Saquon looks tired, man.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him. I do. And
beat up tired or just tired of losing?
Yeah, well, beat up, even though he's a young player, it just seems like the offense has always been on his shoulders to me. And in order for this offense to be any good, he has to run for 100 yards, and he's not getting much help up front. He can't get plays started. It's tough.
Right.
Yeah.
So it feels like he's always running uphill. With the defense on him, and
he was able to do it his rookie year. And without a great offensive line, get yards. But after that, it's been an uphill battle for him.
If Jake Fromm can just be kind of a dinker, he has some decent weapons. He has Ingram, he has Slayton, he's got Kenny Galladay. If he can move the chains just a little bit with a short passing game, will that open it up theoretically for Saquon and not feel like he has to carry it all? Or do you think he's at the point where he just is burdened by it and?
Well, this is the game. The playing the Eagles defense is a game for a Jake Fromm because he's going to see a bunch of zone. You're not going to see a bunch of blitzing.
Right.
When you have a young quarterback like this, you expect to see the house being thrown at him. But the Eagles don't do that much. And from me, just Jake Fromm over the years, because he started out a lot better than he ended at Georgia, I've always thought of him as a guy that changes when pressure in situations.
I would agree, which is why, believe it or not, I think you might see a little more pressure than you might think. It's selective. I mean, it's not going to be 50% blitz, but I mean selective situational pressure.
If you look back at his games, you know, the Alabamas and the important games in the SEC Championship, those games, the difference was guys were in his face, and that's when you begin to see what type of player a guy is. Is when guys are close to him. And he changed. And so if the Eagles can do that, it'll be a lot easier for them. But if they sit back and dink and dunk, you never know. Jake Fromm may look great.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you guys were hinting at with Jonathan Gannon. Not a big pressure guy, neither was Jim Schwartz. But there were times, we talked about the Jets game 2 years ago, where Luke Falk had to start for the Jets, and Jim Schwartz, became Buddy Ryan that day. I mean, just completely relentlessly attacked the quarterback because he sensed the situation called for it, and that was a major advantage. And Gannon took heat this week for not having a similarly aggressive approach against Garrett Gilbert, who had just been signed by Washington 4 days prior.
Yeah.
He had been on the Patriots practice squad. He's only made one start. It was last year for the Cowboys. It seemed like an opportunity there to try to capitalize off a guy, rattle him. And I was even surprised myself. There were times I thought Garrett Gilbert had 5-6 seconds to kind of look around and make a throw. Even if he didn't complete it, he had that time.
He had the time to do it.
And that surprised me a little bit. Were you a little put off by that?
Am I surprised? No,
I
wouldn't be surprised. No. You just anticipate a guy to see blood in the water and attack it. And I thought that was a great opportunity, like most did. This week again is a great opportunity. You got a young quarterback, not much experience. Why not send the house at him to create a game where there is a bunch of turnovers? And these are like turnover. This helps him as a defensive coordinator. Like if you're a stat chaser or you want your defense to go up a little bit, these games right here are the ones.
Right.
Like this is the Winston Justice versus the Giants game. This is the time where we feast. On Jake Fromm.
Well, the flip side again. I'm not defending Jonathan Gannon. He doesn't need me to do that. But the flip side of that is you take a quarterback that hasn't seen very much, and then you make him read it out. And he's not going to read it out the proper way because he just hasn't played very much. So you don't blitz. Maybe you play more zone. Because don't forget, if you play man is easier for a quarterback to read.
Sure.
Because he may not complete the balls, but it's easier to read.
Right. You know what, Craig, I get that. But I felt in this situation, I would rather try to have a quarterback completely because you can confuse a quarterback just by bringing pressure from an angle he's not expecting.
Back off, Jeff. If you start coming being aggressive and he's winning, then back off.
Yeah.
But to me, why give him easier throws? I thought that Gilbert actually at times looked pretty good in that game.
I did too.
Which you and I talked about leading up to the show. We know that people in the league think Garrett Gilbert, for whatever reason, I know he hasn't made it as a backup quarterback. He's 30 years old. He's been in the league now 9 years, but he could be a quality backup quarterback. But don't make it easier for him. And I thought at times they made it easy for him.
It's funny the way Jason said it because I asked him if he was surprised. He said no. We had Seth Joyner on with us on Inside the Birds TV this past week.
And I'm sorry, Seth said
it was actually very fair. It was actually
surprisingly, Seth was not as critical as I thought he should be.
He knows Gannon's MO is not the blitz.
But you know why he was? Because he was like Jason. He said, I'm kind of resigned to the fact that he doesn't, it's not in his nature. See, that's where I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure if he needs different personnel, and then all of a sudden you'll see a more aggressive guy.
That's what we don't know.
I don't know if it's not in his nature, but I gotta say, when I saw that approach against Garrett Gilbert,
I think Maddox can blitz, but I'm not sure Singletary and Edwards are blitzers.
Yeah, I don't think they have great
so
blitzers.
You have to have guys who can do it.
Do you? In this case, though? I mean, did Jim Johnson I'm not Jim Johnson.
When I say do it, I don't mean that means you never blitz, Jeff. But I mean we're blitzing at a higher percentage relative to the league.
Sure.
Is part of your main MO.
No, that's where I go back to the Jim Schwartz game. Jim Schwartz doesn't like to blitz, and he doesn't have good blitzers.
He knew it.
He brought it against Luke Falk that day.
The coaching, like the only way you can get better at it is to call it in the game and coach guys up from it. So if you want Avonte Maddox to be a better blitzer, it's not going to be in practice where, he may learn a few things, but in the game, when he gets that rep, he's going to get better. So, I get it where you say maybe this is his nature or not. I don't know that. To me, it always seems to me that that he's learning.
Yeah.
That's what it seems to me.
Well,
this
I
is
tell
who he
They
is
do
at this
blitz on
moment.
occasion. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
no,
not
I
like
know
it
they
was the
blitz a
first
little bit.
5-6 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
And they're also
Thanks,
playing
Ron.
more man than they used to.
it's in our nature, by the way,
Ron,
to
I
have a few
appreciate
drinks
you,
during the show.
Right.
So we're going to toast up. Thank you, Ron.
Thank
That
you,
was
Ron.
Ron from Jack's Bar and Grill
Thank
with
you,
the
Ron.
B-Dog jersey, as he always has. And we didn't get a chance to ask him his prediction, but I'm pretty sure he would
We
have
know it's
picked
going
the
to be
Eagles,
Eagles
too.
all the way. Ron, what do you got? Eagles?
You got Eagles, Ron? He's going to come back on and give us a prediction. We can't have you show without your prediction.
Yeah, come on, man. We're in the dog jersey, of course.
That. You guys got a lot more important things to say than I do. So, we should take this one, right? We did the same thing we did last week.
Should.
Last
Come
week,
on.
played him,
Should.
rushed over 200 yards.
That's true.
A guy wearing a dog
job.
jersey would like to see more blitzing. I would think.
Exactly.
I would think so.
27-14, something like that.
All right.
That's
Take care
right.
of business, guys.
All right. Sounds good, Ron. Thank
All
you.
right, man. Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Like he said, come out here to Jack's Bar and Grill, and Ron will personally serve you a great drink. Trust us, we know we're the experts on that.
Well, you are.
I am the expert on that. That's all. You know what? I don't even drink pina coladas that much, but Ron gave it to me. I said, make me anything. He made it this is like 7 weeks ago, and it was so darn good. I was like, all right, we're just gonna have this
That's
every
the
week.
old man drink there? Ginger ale?
Is that the
Congrats.
ginger
When
ale?
you reach
Okay.
70, that's what
I know,
I remember
yeah,
that.
All right. What are you
look
drinking?
good
A
for
Diet
70,
Coke?
I'll tell you.
Don't I? Yeah.
You drinking a Diet Coke?
I am.
And,
Should.
And you had the goal to make an old man joke.
No, but come on, that young kids don't drink that. What are you talking about?
Like, all the kids are drinking Diet Cokes these days.
Thanks, Jeff. I was holding back there.
I'm sure you are. All right. Well, look, we can talk about the blitzing, I mean, it is what it is. We'll
They're
see.
winning.
You tend to think he will be more aggressive today against Fromm, though.
I think it'll be selective. It's not going to be
I like that.
50% blitz.
Yeah.
Right. But why would he be more against Jake Fromm than, say, against Garrett Gilbert?
Well, that I can't answer, but I will play off what Jay said, is I think Fromm, his efficiency would drop dramatically and has, based on his past, when he's under pressure. He's not a big arm guy. He can't make throws unless he's comfortable, unless he can plant that back foot and he can deliver within structure and timing.
How's his athleticism, guys?
Just okay.
Okay. Just
okay.
average, okay.
Just average.
I'd come after him a little bit. Just
That's
a little
one
bit.
reason, too, why he was a fifth-round pick, because he doesn't have the athleticism and mobility and movement to make up for the fact that his arm talent's not at a higher level.
Sure. Hey, separate subject real quick, because it's a good question from Carl Stevenson from our YouTube comments, so thank you, Carl. He's wondering if we're ever going to see an expanded role for Tyree Jackson.
It's a great question.
And I think it's a phenomenal question. Obviously, they're running the ball so much, it's hard. They're struggling as it is to come up with someone other than Devontae or Dallas to catch the ball consistently. But this guy does offer a different dimension with his size. And
I'll let Jay speak to this as well, but I don't think they're struggling with that. I think that's their offense.
that's their offense. Right. There's
This
just not
past
enough.
week was a base personnel offense. I even made the notes of number of snaps of 12 personnel and 13 personnel. This is a base personnel offense. This is not a passing offense. I mean, we can talk about Tyree Jackson and maybe his role in terms of number of snaps will increase.
Sure.
But even for wide receivers, yes, they're winning, but Jay knows this. Wide receivers want to be throwing the ball.
Right.
And Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins, they're not really getting targets in this offense.
Nope.
And the bottom line is, that's what we were discussing in the first hour, Jeff, is whether this offense is sustainable.
Right.
Because you basically have an offense where the wide receivers are not highly targeted and are not really big factors.
That's correct.
And to just piggyback on what he's saying, if we're going to adopt this offense going forward, if this is going to be our structure, the receivers don't match this offense as a whole.
You want bigger
Great
blocking
point.
receivers?
Because you need guys that can block for the Brandon Ayuk's or the Debo Samuels,
Right.
that
Right,
type of
right,
offense
right.
where you can throw a screen out there and they can get on the edge. Every time we throw a screen out to the edge, a guy's getting beasted. We threw a bubble screen out to a running back this past week, and the play was blown up because the tight end and the receiver got beat. So
Right.
you need bigger guys. You can keep a one or two fast,
Yeah.
but you need some bigger guys to
A
be
Michael
out there.
Pittman type guy.
You need bigger
Change
guys.
your thing. Well, never mind. I won't get into that.
So the inactives,
Inactives.
are no surprises. We've got Reed Sinnett, so the Eagles will dress just two quarterbacks. Kerry Vincent corner, Tay Gowan corner, and Marlon Tuipulotu. Once
right.
again inactive.
Still struggle for Marlon Tuipulotu to get into this rotation.
I want to say this about Tyree Jackson. The only thing that we have is size, and that's what we have. We
Right.
have size. Oh, this guy can run. He's big, but he hasn't proven anything. So if he hadn't proven anything, why
Why
would
would
we
you throw him the
why
ball?
would we go out of why would
Right.
we go out of our way to try to adopt something or change the offense for a guy
I'm
that
with
we
you on
don't know
that.
can play?
He needs another off season. He's
Sure.
a position change guy who missed a ton of time due to an injury.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed that he can get out there in those
Yeah.
13
So, I mean,
personnel
you can't-
packages
yeah.
and run block. I mean, he'd never played anything other than quarterback until this summer, so
Yeah.
or spring, I should say.
Yeah.
So it's impressive that he's even getting on the field to begin with. All right, one thing we talked about the defense. We know that Gannon has been passive, but we can also say that the defense has shown improvement
Yes.
over the last 8 weeks. They've been there now. We'll get into who they're
Top 10,
playing,
right?
but they are 5th in total defense since the start of Week 8. They've allowed 18 or fewer points in 3 consecutive games for the first time since 2009. That's a long time ago. They've obviously improved. Adam, I think the reality is also they've taken a long journey here down average quarterback alley. And I think I'm being kind when I say average quarterback about some of the guys they've faced.
That's a fair statement.
Absolutely. So do you still trust? I mean, I'm going to ask you, like, do you remember what the first 7 weeks were like? You've seen what the last 7 weeks were like, 7 or 8. Do you trust yet that this team could be a much better defense against a better quarterback or a better offensive team?
What I worry about is the type of game like the Justin Herbert game where you gave them throws, you didn't jam the receivers. Keenan Allen killed them in that game, just crushed them. We talked about it leading up to the game. Watch Donald Parham Jr., 6'8", he scored against them. Everything we worried about coming to that game came to fruition, yet they only lost by 3. I think it was 27-24.
Yeah.
But you gave up too much room. Did you learn from that? Now, you could say, as you brought that up, well, they haven't faced many great quarterbacks since then, and some good receivers, not great receivers. Did a good job for the most part, except for one play against McLaurin. But I do worry about it against Dallas if Dallas gets themselves together in Week 18. If that game is all about getting into the playoffs, that would worry me with those receivers. And Eagles got destroyed in Dallas early this season because you brought it up, the first 7 games.
Right.
My sense is Gannon's learned a little bit, but my trust level's not there with him. Where I trust Sirianni, like you cannot believe, as a play caller, I'm just sorry, I'm not there with Gannon yet.
Yeah.
I still worry about him regressing.
I would almost say, guys, it feels like they're clearly not as bad as they were the first 7 or 8 weeks, but I'm not sure when I read the statistics there how they're 5th in this and 3rd in that, they're that good either. They're somewhere in
Well,
between.
the quality of opponent, that's a big factor. They have not played big passing teams.
Correct.
And even running teams. I think their run defense, in this 7-game stretch where they've led the NFL in rushing and are with historic numbers, I believe they might even be leading the NFL in run defense in that same stretch, or they're very close to it.
It was something. They were top 5.
Yeah. But it's the quality of opponent, and I think you do have to factor that in.
Right. And unfortunately, that's not going to change much today. I mean,
Right.
you're going to leave no matter what happens with the same kind of impression.
I think that they're shortening the game too. So I bet you if you go back over and look at it, I'm pretty sure that the opposing offense is probably maybe 1 less or 2 less possessions a game because of how well our offense is running the ball, right? So you kind of take that in consideration. That's that's making our
factor.
defense better. And then the guys are challenging. That's the one thing that I can say.
Yeah.
Early in the season, Avonte Maddox and Steve Nelson, Darius Slay even at times, weren't challenging guys.
Right.
That's the one thing that you do see these last 7 weeks is that they're at least on 3rd downs are in positions to make plays. Besides one or two here and there, I hate when they play. I hate when they play off man.
Right.
I hate it because there's no purpose in playing off man. But unless it's zero, where you got to protect the inside and it's out.
Right.
But especially against bunches and stuff, I hate when they play
Right,
off man.
right.
But other than that, they're challenging.
One additional note, Kadarius Toney is active for the first time in nearly 2 months.
All right.
So he's active today. Austin Johnson is starting D tackles active. He was questionable with a foot injury. So they've got some players back. And Aaron Robinson is back, as you were talking about earlier. He may start today.
Yeah.
So Tony has not played for 2 months?
Nearly 2 months, yeah.
Wow, has it been that long?
COVID
Jeez.
and this
Then he had an injury.
Yeah, this quadriceps injury. Yeah, he keeps getting hurt. Yeah.
Interesting. So teams that we know teams that don't blitz a lot rely on front 4 pressure. Jim Schwartz did that. Jonathan Gannon relying on the front 4 pressure. They have a different alignment. Obviously, it's been well chronicled how the Eagles align up front defensively. How would you categorize so far their defensive line play over the last few weeks during this quote-unquote turnaround? Because I feel like it's been inconsistent. There's sometimes they flash, and there are some times where you're looking for more.
Against what? So if you're talking about the run game, they've been dominant.
No, I was going to say mostly as pass rushers.
Yeah. As pass rushers, they're inconsistent at times, but against the run, they're pretty dominant. So it's a give and take. But there could be a game today where Sweat goes off, or But yes, we want more from pass rush.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing because the defensive front is not that much different from last year's defensive front, personnel speaking. Last year, they were, I think, 3rd in the league in the NFL in sacks per pass attempt. This year, they're 4th worst. So with virtually the same people in the front 7, they are a completely different style of defense, and it's showing in their lack of ability to hit the quarterback or get at the quarterback compared to last year. But last year, they only won 4 games, so I don't, you can extend the conversation out as much as you want.
A lot of things. I mean, I think it's worth, though, for me anyway, mentioning the rookie Milton Williams. I think he's played really well.
Talk about him more.
And I think he flashes in every game, both in the run and as a pass rusher. So that to me, that's a really good pick, and he's only going to get better.
Positive development.
And mostly he plays inside, but depending on the front, he can technically line up at DN, but mostly he plays inside. I think he's been a really good player this year. He gets 20, 25 snaps a game, give or take. So we'll see. But I mean, I thought he flashed again this week versus Washington.
Yeah. Where are you guys with Josh Sweat? Because I feel like when I watch the games and watch tape, like he's there, he's making his pressures, but he's not finishing maybe as much as he has in the past, or it's inconsistent.
Aren't they playing a little bit of wide 9 every once in a while?
Well, they do it depending on the situation.
Yeah, okay.
They still play that 5-man front and base where Avery is the Sam linebacker on the ball.
Right.
And that brings Sweat inside.
Which is not necessarily what he's accustomed to doing. Right. Is that the difference between last year and the 6.5 sacks and what you're seeing this year?
When you have a guy like Sweat, you want him to have freedom. That's what you pay him for.
Yeah.
You pay guys to have freedom. So you want, and sometimes defensive schemes can choke freedom.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing this year. Not saying that the defense scheme is a bad scheme, because the team has gotten way better, and their defensive rating has gotten a lot better. But as far as individual and numbers and pressures and things like that, it may not be in the cards for this style of defense.
Have they tried to move him over to the weak side a little bit more, just to get him that freedom on the other side of the line?
Normally when they do the 5-man front, normally he's inside of Avery. That's where he predominantly lines up.
Right. So, but have they tried flipping him a little bit to get him?
No, so he must be this in their mind. He must be the strong side DN.
That's what I'm saying.
Because he's on the side of Avery. Yeah.
Which is more bodies, which is more to navigate, which is more chips.
Right.
It's so
Does
hard
that
to
mean
navigate.
They think he's a better run defender though than Barnett?
Apparently.
That's kind of interesting.
Or they can handle those kinds of situations better than Barnett.
Right.
One thing about
the blocking.
Sweat in his rookie season before he got hurt, he actually, when he was active, was on base downs because he's long. But I, for some reason, and they're going to have to look at this next year, he's so much better than he's showing. And they got to take advantage of his strengths, which is getting to the passer and using his length.
Now, how about what they did with Fletcher Cox last week, which is a little bit new. And I know we had a question about it from LAC 215. We saw Fletcher Cox lined up at defensive end.
On a number of snaps. Yeah, number of snaps.
For a number of
which
snaps.
he's done throughout his career at times, by the way. This was not the first time he's ever done it.
No, but I feel like this year, though, that was the first time we might have seen it.
Actually, I think they did it before.
Yeah, they did it before.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe once? In one game,
I mean, I didn't chart
but
it.
But it seemed to work, though.
Yeah.
It seemed to work.
He got a sack right before halftime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. From that spot, I believe, right? Or did he stunt on that one?
I'm trying to remember.
Because I sort of remember him coming from the edge on that play.
He was on the left side. I know I saw him taking the snap on the left side. But I like that. That shows that.
What's the value, though? What do you think it brings?
Matchup-wise?
I'm sorry, the sack came when he was at DN because it was a TE stun with Sweat.
Right,
Cox was the penetrator. He drove back Cosme into the pocket.
So in their mind, it was just to get Cox maybe up against Cosme, who was coming back from an injury?
I remember doing Cox coming out of Mississippi State, where he lined up at defensive end a lot. And I actually thought he could be an edge pass rusher in the NFL. Now, I think
in a 4-3?
Yeah. Now, he gained a little weight since he's been in the league.
A few burgers.
But he was a good edge pass rusher at Mississippi State, and I really thought that he had a chance to be a D end.
Interesting. All right, wow, it's the first I've heard that, so that's pretty interesting. All right, check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you're checking them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Giants and what we might expect from their offense today. Look, it's obvious they've gotten bad quarterback play this year. Daniel Jones is out. Mike Lennon wasn't doing it. As we've talked about, though, a couple times, their offensive line kind of gets this whole, it's a terrible offensive line. It actually hasn't been, I don't think, as bad as maybe in past years. And they do have some good weapons on the outside. We mentioned Slayton and we mentioned Kenny Golladay, and Kadarius Toney will come back today. So has it really just all been for this team about their bad quarterback play?
I would disagree with that.
Okay,
I mean,
go ahead.
I would say the O-line's been an issue in the run game, big time.
In the run game, all right.
And because, look, Daniel Jones has become an easy target, and I would argue you're still not exactly sure what he is. But I think we know, because he was the 6th pick in the draft, people are expecting greatness. But I think he's a quarterback that needs a run game, and they've not had any consistent run game in his time there.
Is it strange to see a line that's better at pass blocking than run blocking? Is that how are they built that way? I always thought linemen liked going forward, and that was...
Well, that doesn't automatically mean they're great at it.
Yeah, that's true. I know we're talking about the rhythm and
Right.
the timing and Who's their offensive line coach? Is it they had an issue last year with
Colombo left.
With Colombo, right?
I don't know who their line coach is.
Do you know Adam Guglielmo?
Googs is gone. Yeah,
no, he's gone.
I'll tell you in a second, because I remember he was just there as an interim.
Yeah. Well, do you see them not playing with good timing and coordination? I mean, we talked about that earlier.
I haven't studied them in that kind of detail, so I don't want to say something where I'd be wrong. But the bottom line point is they've had, for the last 2 years, they have not had a consistent run game at all.
Right.
Rob Sale.
Okay.
And
is there a lack of athleticism that stands out at all?
Players.
I mean, they've had a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
They expected Andrew Thomas to come in from Georgia and really be a stalwart at left tackle.
Right.
While I think he's shown flashes, I don't think he's quite reached that level yet where you say, hey, he's the guy and we know we're really good there.
Right.
I think the guy who's been a big disappointment to me, and he's a guy who I have looked at, is Will Hernandez.
Right guard,
yeah.
Yes.
Because he was a second-round pick who I watched his tape. I believe he came out of UTEP, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was UTEP.
And he was a mauler, okay? And I thought he'd come in the league, because most guys who play that way in college, not everyone, but that's the way they play in the league, because that's who they are. He's not been that guy.
Right.
And I think would you agree based on what you've seen? I think they really expected him, because they had Saquon, build the run game, they'd get a mauling guard. They signed Zeitler, who's been a really good player, for a lot of years in this league, and I think they thought that the run game would be their foundation, and they had a quarterback who could execute the play-action pass game, because Jones can do that.
Right.
And none of that's worked out, but they can't run the ball.
And they're down their left guard for the season, their center, and the right tackle Solder just went on the COVID list yesterday. So this is a game that sets up very well once again.
Yet again.
For the Eagles' defensive line, but we'll see what happens.
Which guy do you think is Nate Solder at right tackle? That's kind of sudden, but I know their center was Gates, or is it?
Yeah, Gates is out for the season,
and the left guard was Lemieux, right?
Was out, Shane Lemieux. He's out
was one of those two guys kind of, at least someone that you felt good about on a week-to-week basis?
My sense is, I did both guys coming out, that neither guy was really seen as a starter in the NFL.
Right.
That would be my sense.
Fair point, and that's on Gettleman. Dave Gettleman, when you look at his career as a Giants GM, his inability to build a quality offensive line, and the Eagles will.
And it's crazy because Dave believes in that.
Offensive line.
Dave's an old guy. You
Yeah.
can say what you want about Dave Gettleman. I know Giants fans probably hate him. Okay.
Right.
But the point is he's old school in his thought process.
Sure.
He believes that the game starts with the O-line and the D-line.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the belief is it's the evaluation, I guess, of the
Well, I don't
talent
think Gates and Lemieux were seen as starters.
when he got them.
Yeah, when he got them.
Right.
I mean, they expected Hernandez to be a big-time starter.
Yeah.
They had signed Zeitler in free agency. They expected to have Zeitler and Hernandez probably be their guards. I mean, Zeitler was older, but let's say for 3-4 years, those guys would be their guards, right,
Yeah.
Adam? When you say that would be fair?
Yes,
Yeah.
very fair.
And so and then they expected Thomas to be the stalwart at left tackle.
Right.
I guarantee Solder they figured could play right tackle, and then the kid from Connecticut, Pirate, would end up, because he was a 40-year starter in college now.
Right.
And he's very athletic. So they probably expected that he would then be able to, because I think he was a 3rd or 4th round pick.
I thought it was third.
Third.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
I mean, when you draft an O-lineman in the 3rd round, you expect him to become a starter.
Right, into a starter.
So what do they do is they traded for Billy Price from the Bengals, who was a former high
pick.
Right,
who never made it with the Bengals. Yeah.
Right. And he's okay. Scar's in there now. You might remember him.
He was with Baltimore.
From the Ravens, right? And
it's been a mix and match.
It has not worked. But we could talk all we want about, okay, they're not as talented. Hey, the Eagles are sticking a fifth depth chart guy at guard, and they still get it done.
Yeah.
And we're not going to rip their coach because we don't know what they're doing.
I was just curious because I hadn't heard his name.
I'm not going to do that, but the point is they're not very good on tape.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, how much of a difference, let's say Kadarius Toney can play 50% of the snaps today. I don't know. I can't imagine he's going to be able to play a full game, but guys are in great condition, so I don't know. But he hasn't played in several weeks.
He's been on the COVID list for a while.
He has been. So how much of a difference, even if he plays half the game, do you think he might be able to make?
He's a touchdown. He's that type of player where he's the guy you want the ball.
Yeah.
You want to get him the ball as much as you can because he's a playmaker, and he's proven that he can do it at this level. So he's definitely one of those players that they will design some screens for and try to get the ball in his hand if he's playing, especially with Fromm as quarterback. So I definitely think that he's an attention to detail type of guy for Jonathan Gannon if he's active and playing.
Yeah, if they put him a few snaps outside against Nelson, that would be
sweeps, reverses.
Without question. I think you'll see tunnel screens to him. You might even see him line up in the backfield for easy throws for Fromm.
Right.
Because Fromm's not a drop back, sit on his back foot and drive the ball down the field guy.
Yeah.
You want easy throws, define reads, get the ball to a guy like Toney, who's a playmaker with the ball in his hands.
Right. All right, we'll see what happens. Kadarius Toney back for the Giants today. A very dangerous weapon when he's healthy. Now is the time where I always remind people that Adam did pick the Giants to win the division going into the year.
Why do you got to do that?
They don't play the Giants after this, so I don't have to bring it up anymore.
You can't get them all right.
Until the offseason. No, that's fine.
They're not going to win the division?
Apparently they're not. No, I don't think they're going to win the division.
You all can go home.
Has anybody clinched a playoff spot yet in the NFC?
Packers run the
Packers.
But last night, right?
It was last night. The Packers.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Today if they win.
That's amazing how deep we've gotten, and only one team as we sit here today is clinched. That's what the NFL wants. What's the word they use?
Competitive balance.
Competitive
They love
balance,
that.
not parity. They don't like the word parity. They like competitive.
They hate that. They'll tell
balance.
me, no, competitive balance.
All right, it's time to do what we do best. We're going to start making our predictions. We'll start with our player of the game first. As we always tell you, if you want to get an advantage over your sportsbook, download BetQL. It's the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reason behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads to over-unders, player prop bets, and if you don't want to use the model, if you would rather do research yourself, well, BetQL's got all the necessary tools for your betting research needs, from line movement to sharp data, team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news, even a leaderboards to track your success. So go to the Apple Store or Google Play Store now to download BetQL. You can also go to the website try.betql.co/ITB to get started now. Just enter the discount code ITB at payment checkout to get 25% off their subscription offerings. Also, they've got a sportsbook offers page. If you live in one of the eligible states, you can claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed, so don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season using BetQL. And we will get into some of their trends and projections in a minute. Jason, I will start with you. Who's going to be the player of the game in this tilt today between the Eagles and Giants?
I got Miles Sanders. It's time for him to get a touchdown.
About time, right?
Yeah, it's time for him to get some touchdowns. I think that he may get 2 today. That's
2 touchdowns from Miles Sanders.
What I think. Yeah.
Which would be 2 more than he has all year long.
Yeah, I think it's this time.
I feel like he's broken a few, right? And he gets tackled like the 4, the 2. He just hasn't had that.
It's time for him.
All right, it's time. Miles Sanders is your player of the game. Greg, who's the player of the game?
I just went with Dallas Goedert. I figured,
The layup, right?
Yeah, they're throwing the ball a lot.
Yeah,
I think he's going to catch a bunch of balls.
Does he reach Owinsian heights today and get his 3rd straight 100-yard game?
Oh, that's a good question. We'll say yes. What the hell?
I should have done the research. Has Kelsey or Waller or Kittle had 3 straight 100-yard games? I wonder if we know that. No, that would be
That was
pretty
hard to
interesting.
do.
It would be
For a
hard.
tight end
I
especially.
think Kelsey has that. With Mahomes, I think it may
I
have
would say
happened.
Kelsey probably.
I would think the order would be of probability would be Kelsey, Waller, Kittle, of having 3 straight 100-yard games. Now Kittle has about 20 consecutive completions against the Eagles on 20 targets. We know that. When he plays the Eagles, he gets 100 or he gets whatever he wants, basically. All right, Adam, who is your player of the game today?
Well, because we know the Giants are not great at tackle, now we know Nate Solder's out.
Tackle or tackling?
Well,
Or both?
that could be both, but we will go with Derek Barnett in my surprise pick. I got it a couple weeks ago when he got the job done. I'm going to go with Derek Barnett this time because he's very quietly had a decent season.
You've actually thought about this, huh?
We did. And it would be nice if Gannon. It would be nice if Gannon would be more aggressive, but one can't win everything.
This is Greg's process on the roster. Oh, Dallas Goedert. But Adam actually does his homework.
Goddard's he is on an absolute roll right now. Again, thank you, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, for understanding that offense has to go through the tight end.
All right, there you go. My player of the game, I always like to pick like kind of a dark horse. Mine is sort of in line with Jason's. I'm picking Jordan Howard. I thought last week in his comeback game he was not as explosive and dynamic as prior to the injury, but now we're another week removed, and he certainly is going to get his fair share of carries against this Giants defense. So I'm thinking Jordan Howard, maybe 2 touchdowns today. Two on the
So
goal
you must
line.
think they're going to blow him out.
We'll see. We'll get to that part in a minute. All right, so that's my guy. So Jordan Howard, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, and your guy was Goddard. Who's your guy? Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett. Good stuff. All right, let us get into our predictions for the game. First, I want to remind everyone, Sundays are made for football at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia. Right here, every Sunday from now to the end of the season, you can enjoy $7 food specials in Jack's Bar and Grill, half-price gourmet burgers at Hugo's Chop House, drink specials, and more. Not only that, but when the Eagles score, you score when you're actively planning with your Rush Rewards card in the Bird's Nest pit in front of the sportsbook. Remember, you can be a winner at Rivers Casino Philadelphia, where Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now the line is now up to, this is probably here's already a first. The Eagles are favored 3 straight games now, first time this year. 10.5. I believe that is their largest spread. What was the Washington game? That got down to 9, right?
I think and they covered by because they won by 10.
Right. At one point it was at 14, but it closed at close to.
Was it?
Well,
when they didn't know who the
yeah.
Okay,
and the quarterback.
All right.
Yeah, 10.5 with an over/under of 40.5. So very low-scoring game that they project for the Eagles and Giants today. So I will start off with Greg. Greg, who do you think is going to win and by what score?
I think the Eagles are going to win.
Okay.
I can't remember the score I picked. Was it 24-10?
You picked 24-10. See, you always say you can't remember, and then you remember it.
Well, there you go.
Just buy yourself
I
time.
think the Eagles are going to win this game.
All right, 14 points. Big win. That means they cover the spread. Jason, who wins today?
The Birds, I think 24-13.
24-17?
I got 24-17.
24-17.
Now,
Yeah,
you had
24-17.
said that you feel a little guilty about that. Like maybe it won't go.
Just the Giants' defense is a lot better than people give them credit for.
I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, that's all. And I think last game it was what, 13-7?
Oh, it's 13-7. Yeah, that was pretty
Yeah,
ugly.
so it's, yeah.
All right, Adam.
I've got a 24-13.
You have 23-10. I have
23.
here.
Okay,
Yeah.
23-10. Okay.
Pulling a Greg.
Yeah. They'll win.
He's
Look,
starting to have senior moments too. You
no, I'm
notice?
not a senior. Tough guy. In fact, they'll card you for old age. Anyway, they'll win. The Eagles will be in control this whole game. They'll take care of business. They'll learn from what happened in the last game. They're so committed to the run. They have so many advantages in this game. I just think that there's just no way they're losing this game. I was wrong the last time they played. In fact, that was the game you changed your pick. Did you not?
Yes, last week. Oh, no,
the
Giants game.
Did
Yes.
you not? You were thinking Giants all week, then you changed it at the last minute.
I
No,
did.
I've been on the Eagles all
Paying the
week
price since.
on this one, and I'm going to stick with it.
All right, well, I am going to take a page from the book from our friend who read out. He said, Bruce Terrell said, Jake Fromm won't score a touchdown. Eagles win 35-0. I agree. The Giants will not get a touchdown today. They will get 4 field goals.
All
The
FGs.
Eagles will win 24-12, setting up a very interesting matchup next week against Washington, which should be a lot healthier. And they play Dallas today, correct?
Tonight.
Tonight.
Sunday night football.
Sunday night football. Should be a big game.
In Big D, yep.
All right. By the way, if you're going to BetQL and you want their projections, this is an interesting one. They have the Eagles scoring 27 points today, the Giants scoring 16. They see a big game from Jalen Hurts, 240 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and an additional
Where are they getting
35
240?
yards on the ground. I told you where they get it. They got a model, a best bet model that's scanned. I don't want to do the read all over
They
again.
got some guy in his underwear in the back room just throwing stuff out. Yeah.
That's a lot for, that would be a lot.
To Jason's point, Saquon Barkley, 35 yards on 9 carries. Not very good. 2 catches
He'll
for
be
15
behind a lot.
yards.
Yep.
All right. Remember, before you put your money down on the game, go to BetRivers app or come here to Rivers Casino in Philadelphia and get all your statistical trends and data at BetQL. Big thanks to Rivers. Big thanks to Sky Motor Cars, BetQL, the teams at Rebel Hill and Public Square. Make sure you check out the Inside the Birds podcast. It'll drop at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Q&A with Quentin Mikell and Jason Avant Thursday, 6 a.m. Look to InsideTheBirds.com for all of our post-game coverage. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy it. Have a fun time. Hope you had a great Christmas. Enjoy the game. See you next week.